Latin FM ilayska umada.
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
I already thought of something that will speed things up.
How dare you throw stones at your own family when you yourself had been unfaithful to me for so long? I know everything about
Niece.
you. Deserve more than that.
But now everything is just falling apart. You're the only one that I have right now.
Swear in front of her grave that you didn't kill her.
Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
Are you an aspiring candidate in the upcoming general elections? Do you want your agenda and manifesto to reach your voters effectively? At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
Good morning. It is March the 15th. That is 2022. We are looking at the political matrix with August 9th just around the corner. So today, Deputy President William Ruto is expected to be crowned the UDA flag bearer at the NDC that is going to be taking place at Kasarani. KBC Channel 1 would be on set, or rather on ground, to bring you, that particular live proceeding from that particular event. Now, it's scheduled to take place at the Kasarani Stadium, and it is expected to hold around 5,000 delegates from across the country. And this endorsement of the Deputy President as the UDA flag bearer comes barely some days after the former premier and leader of ODM, that is Raila Odinga, was crowned the flag bearer for Azimio la Umoja. Now, talking about Azimio la Umoja, Kalonzo has packed fresh raw details of the Azimio deal. All this and so much more will be coming up in detail as we focus on those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours, including why you need to tighten your belt as Wanjiko as fuel prices go high by 5 shillings and the trickle effect into the already strained economy. Good morning once again. I'm Regina Manyara and this is Good Morning Kenya. Jane. Good morning. Nasikia leo they are forcing another team on Regina na Regina amekataa hiyo story kabisa. Liwe liwalo. Team Manu for life. Indeed. There we go. Indeed. Indeed. Good morning, and welcome to the program. I am General Boy. As always, we appreciate that you choose to start your morning with us right here on Good Morning Kenya. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning, and as we always do it every Tuesday, we'll be having our health conversation, and today we'll be focusing on cancer and just looking at how far we have come as a country in terms of the treatment and the service delivery in the space
space of cancer in Kenya, and just looking at the deals that have been signed between our country and other partner countries, all in line with just trying to improve and, bring the mortality rates of cancer down, given we have an annual incidence of about 47,000 cases every year with a mortality rate of about 37,000. So you can see over 75% of cancer cases end in death. So what can we do as a country to alleviate and make this cancer burden not as much a burden as it is for us as a country? So we welcome you to share with us your thoughts. That discussion will be coming up in not too long. Doreen.
Well, with the Kenyan youths being termed as leaders of tomorrow, what happens today with the majority of them also being urged to take up elective position, given it is the political season? But what exactly and what opportunities are there for the youth? This is also a conversation we'll be having today, even as that event is slated for today. That is the Public Service Emerging Leaders Fellowship, just to get to better understand what exactly is the space of youth when it comes to politics as well as leadership positions. Obviously that and so much more in store, as well as also how our roads will be looking like this Tuesday morning, our focus being on Jago Road. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okello.
Great. Just to remind you that we are open to your feedback. You can get us on our various social media handles. I'm on Twitter at Ray Manyara. We have Traffic Marshal A1 Doreen Arange at Doreen Arange, and Lady Jane and Jane Wamboy on Twitter. However, the station handle is at KBC Channel 1, include where you're watching this particular broadcast from. Now, without further ado, let us bring you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. Good morning. You're watching In the Headlines right here on KBC Channel 1. I'm Regina Manyara. Now, Kenyans will have to dig deeper into their pockets as the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority increased fuel pump prices by 5 shillings each for super petrol and diesel. The regulator says the monthly review change is courtesy of a jump in the landed cost of 13.4% for super petrol and 12% for diesel. This is a result of the continued conflict between Ukraine and Russia, being the world's second oil exporters. Hibak Said has more details on that.
Across the country has been met with general disapproval, with Kenyans lamenting over the already soaring prices of living. The March-April fuel price review has seen an average price shoot of 4% for petrol and 5% diesel, with little relief as kerosene prices remained unchanged. In Nairobi, super petrol will retail at 134 shillings up from 129 shillings, while diesel is up to 115 shillings from 110 shillings per litre. Residents of the capital are now lamenting over the drastic price change, with many opting to shift to public means of transportation or even walking.
Wengine wataacha kulima na unajua kulima lazima tutumie mafuta na hiyo ndio kila kitu.
Kenyans say the price change is bound to affect the cost of living, which already has them by the scruff.
Sasa wakiongeza mafuta wanaendelea kufinyiria wananchi.
The prices in Mombasa will now read 132 shillings for super petrol and 113 shillings for diesel, a jump residents from the coastal city find hard to come to terms with.
Tutakula sisi, wananchi wa kawaida atakuwa na uwezo wa kulisha familia, kuweka chakula kwa meza. It will be impossible.
Wengine kwanza hawana kazi. Wengi wao hawana kazi. Wengi wao unaona sasa iko street hapo wanabangaiza. Na katika ile hali wakirudi nyumbani hawana vile wanaweza nunua mafuta.
In Kisumu, the prices have jumped to 135 for super petrol and 116 for diesel per litre.
Inatushinda kwa sababu saa hizi uchumi imepanda sana, hata ukienda kununua unga imeshafika hadi 150.
Kama nimesoea kwamba shite kija ama chochote kikuja juu, anything extra wanarudisha kwa mtu wa chini. Lakini huwezi kujua kwamba that extra wapeleke kwa watu wa juu.
As Kenyans grapple to come to terms with the new prices for the liquid gold, many worry of how they will survive in the new reality.
Now, that particular price change has already elicited a lot of debate, both from mainstream and also on social media platforms. Our reporter, Benson Rioba, looked at the impact, or rather the trickle effect of that particular price increase that is expected to trigger an upsurge in the cost of transport and production. Here are the details.
The cost of goods and services is expected to jump in the coming days due to the hike in the cost of fuel in the country. Kenyans should prepare for an increase in the cost of goods, including basic foodstuffs, energy and transport. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has increased the cost of petrol and diesel by 5 shillings a litre. Manufacturers are expected to pass the high cost of production to the final consumers. Among the foodstuffs that are expected to see an immediate price hike are wheat products. Millers have been contemplating reviewing the cost of wheat products due to last week's increase in wheat import prices. Millers were importing wheat at 57,000 shillings per ton, up from 47,000 shillings the previous week. The situation has been exacerbated by the Russian-Ukraine conflict, which has made the cost of shipping go up by more than 30% in the last 3 weeks. Millers are also set to increase the cost of wheat flour, that has already seen the cost of bread going up by 10% from 50 to 55 shillings. Motorists and commuters will also have to raise their travel budgets, as PSV owners are likely to increase transport to match the new fuel prices. The government efforts to bring down the cost of power will also suffer from the fuel price hike. Power consumers might have to wait longer to feel the effects of power reductions, as phase 2 of power bill cuts might factor in the current fuel prices. Depending on the direction the Russian-Ukraine conflict will take, the global fuel and commodity prices are likely to hit record levels in the coming weeks, affecting the common man even further.
Matters of the economy, today is day 2 of the KCSE examinations. Now, yesterday, 3 teachers from Garissa, Isiolo and Rusinga Island were taken into custody after they were found engaging in examination malpractices as the Kenya Secondary School Education examinations kicked off yesterday. Now, in Kisii County, a third-year student from Kisii University is also behind bars for attempting to impersonate a private candidate.
3 invigilators who were supervising the KCSE exams in schools from Airport View, Garissa County, Garbatula in Isiolo County, as well as in Rusinga Island, are under police custody after they were nabbed leaking exams to candidates.
The cell phones are being analyzed, and it is quite obvious that somebody was attempting to keep giving them information. But like I keep saying, it is extremely stupid to pretend to help the child when the exam is ongoing. You yourself, you are not intelligent. You have no time to go and think, and all you want to do is to confuse our children. Let these 3 examples serve as a very, very severe example that anybody, any other person who dares to take images of our papers, we shall follow you. And I think the decision is yours. There are no jobs in Kenya, and if you think teaching is not good enough for you, perhaps you would better resign rather than your children seeing you in this type of thing.
Miles away in Kisii County, cornered and subdued, Brian Angwenyi on Monday morning found himself on the wrong side of the law after he allegedly attempted to sit for the KCSE exams.
Kulingana na taratibu za mtihani, yule supervisor na invigilator waliweza ku identify yeye kama impersonator. Askari waliitwa kutoka Kisii Police Station wakiwa na maafisa kutoka kitengo cha CID. Walienda kule shuleni na wakaweza kumshika huyu impersonator, na sasa hivi ashawekwa kwa cell hapa Kisii Police Station. Mashtaka yake inakuwa processed na kesho asubuhi atapelekwa kotini.
Police believe Brian was trying to sit the papers on behalf of one Martin Nyamwea.
Huyu Nyamwea James Martin ameregister mtihani katika kituo cha private center ambaye saa hizi inakuwa hosted na hiyo Kiama Bundu Mix Secondary School. So alikuwa anaketi kwa English paper 1.
2 students were also arrested in Nairobi after they were found in possession of mobile phones.
We are going to be very soft with them. We shall allow them to take the exams. But I want to once again just warn that any teacher who feels he or she is brave enough to open, particularly the second paper, we shall know where you have done it, and we shall come for you, just like we did in Wajir and just like we did in Tanzania and other places.
Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha said that nothing will be left to chance in efforts to secure the conduct of the national examinations.
So the children are not guilty. The guilty are the parents, and the more guilty are the teachers, some of whom are basically just traders and crooks. We dismantled one of their cartels in primary schools.
The government is banking on a multi-agency approach and a raft of reforms to ensure the integrity of the exams remains intact.
As the KCSE examinations get underway, this being day 2, we want to wish all the candidates the best of luck in their examinations. Now, crossing over to matters security, detectives have arrested the prime suspect behind the assault of a female motorist along Wangari Maathai Road a week ago. According to the DCI, Zakaria Nyaora Obadia was arrested in Sirare at the Kenya-Tanzania border.
Zakaria Nyaora Obadia, a boda operator who has been identified by police as a key suspect in the Forest Road incident where a diplomat was harassed, leading to a nationwide crackdown on bodas, has finally been arrested. Through its official Twitter handle, the Directorate of Criminal Investigation said Obadia was arrested as he tried to cross into Tanzania through the porous border. According to DCI, Zakaria Obadia has been engaging the investigators in a hide-and-seek game after escaping the police dragnet last week at Mukuru Kayaba through a sewer duct. Detectives say they narrowed down on Zakaria's identity through digital forensics employed by cybercrime experts at the DCI National Forensic Laboratory that placed him at the scene of the crime. Detectives now say he will face justice in strict conformity to the law. The incident, which attracted condemnation from across the country, saw President Uhuru Kenyatta direct a review of regulations to streamline the sector.
I did give instructions and I have ordered a crackdown on all border operators starting here in Nairobi and moving across the country.
The week-long crackdown saw the arrest of 16 border operators currently being held at police cells.
We'll be keeping tabs on that. Now we cross over to matters of, the ripple effects of the COVID-19 disruptions and the subsequent changes in as far as the measures are concerned. Now places of worship will resume their full capacity, with all the elderly and vulnerable encouraged to physically attend worship under the new guidelines of the phased reopening of places of worship. The Interfaith Council for National Response to the Coronavirus Pandemic has further lifted limitations of attendance and timings in funerals and weddings, while advising Kenyans to continue wearing the masks while observing all measures of hygiene in places of worship. With the details.
In March 2020, the government suspended all public gatherings and religious meetings as the Minister of Health embarked on a journey to trace contacts of the first case of the deadly COVID-19 disease, the then coronavirus that had just been confirmed in the country. The gradual reopening of places of worship began in July last year, when President Uhuru Kenyatta partially lifted some restrictions imposed on places of worship. 2 years into the pandemic, the religious leaders say that God has finally answered their prayers.
We sincerely thank all the religious leaders
who have relentlessly abided by the guidelines in the places of worship and taken the front line in educating and encouraging the citizens on the need to live up to the various guidelines.
The Interfaith Council for National Response to the Coronavirus Pandemic has further lifted limitations of attendance and timing in funerals and weddings, but advising that people should not lower their guards yet as the danger still hung on.
The time limits for the services is also lifted. All elderly and vulnerable can now attend the worship. We commend at the same time that it would be highly advisable that they be vaccinated.
However, no proof of vaccination will be required before one is allowed to enter any place of worship.
We will continue to observe all measures of hygiene by washing hands or sanitizing before and after the worship services, as well as in all moments where handling shared items.
The announcement comes barely a week after the government lifted the mandatory wearing of face masks in open places, even as it further eased the COVID-19 restrictions after the country maintained a low positivity rate.
Just a quick reminder that we're not out of the woods yet. Remember to take care of yourself personally. If you needed to wear that mask, well, remember it is not prohibited. Now, crossing over to the political scene, Azimio la Umoja coalition says it is reaching out to Martha Karua's NARC Kenya party for partnership after bagging the support of 3 other partners in the One Kenya alliance. Azimio spokesman Professor Makau Mutua says modalities on how the parties will field candidates are being worked out. Geshoke Washira has a report.
On Monday, Azimio la Umoja's flag bearer Raila Odinga arrived in London for a 5-day tour as Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka and KANU chairman Senator Gideon Moi took the coalition campaigns to Tharaka Nithi County.
Mko ndani ya Azimio? Mko ndani ya Azimio? Wale wanasema Raila tosha, inueni mkono namna hiyo.
Maendeleo Chapchap Party leader Governor Alfred Mutua was also selling Raila Odinga's presidency in Kangundo, Machakos County.
Kura zetu sisi wote zikiwa pamoja, Wakamba wakiwa pamoja, tuelekeze kura mahali pamoja, ndio tuwe ndani ya serikali.
But even before the parties work on modalities of fielding candidates, intrigues on how members previously under One Kenya Alliance will be accommodated in the broader Azimio la Umoja coalition are arising.
Since my appointment as a spokesperson for the Raila Odinga campaign,
Azimio la Umoja coalition spokesperson Professor Makau Mutua and coalition presidential secretary chairperson Governor Dirito Murithi say Wiper Party, KANU and UDM parties signed individually to coalesce under Azimio la Umoja.
What was signed on Saturday was an agreement to form the Azimio Coalition Party. Okay, that is what was signed on Saturday. Secondarily, let me just say that political parties come to Azimio as individual political parties.
Chama haiwezi kubaliwa na sheria kuwa katika coalition mbili. Kwa hivyo ukiangalia Jumamosi, Secretary Generals wa vyama individually ndio walikuwa natia mkataba sahihi.
Azimio la Umoja coalition is reaching out to Martha Karua's NARC Kenya party. The parties under Azimio la Umoja are working on nominations rules that will guide the fielding of candidates.
Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i has warned non-state actors that do not submit their annual returns of dire consequences. He was speaking after launching the annual NGO sector report in Nairobi. Matiang'i further revealed that among the 11,890 non-governmental organizations in Kenya, only 3,000 have filed their returns. Going forward, now they have 90 days to do the necessary.
The government now says it will deal decisively with non-governmental organizations operating without following the laid-down regulations. Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, speaking while launching the annual NGO sector report in Nairobi, has read a riot act to the non-state actors that do not submit their annual returns.
When we comply with the regulations and do what we are supposed to do and file our reports, one, for my colleagues at the Ministry of Planning and the National Bureau of Statistics, it is easier to get accurate and reliable data for planning, especially when it comes to engagement.
The NGOs that have not complied have now been given a 3-month ultimatum.
There are quite a number of NGOs who are not submitting their returns, who are not fully compliant. So as the NGO board, we have no option other than to strike them out of our register if they don't comply with our law.
It's easier for us, now speaking as a security minister, to know that there are no people around who are being misused by terror organizations to masquerade as civil society organizations, but they are conduits for illicit funds and illicit resources that are going into radicalization and recruitment for terrorism.
At the same time, he has called on such institutions to be careful not to be used in jeopardizing the peace in the country as the country heads to the polls.
We must do whatever we can to ensure that the electoral process is not a conduit through which the worst of our passions are expressed and the worst of our parts and interests are expressed to the detriment of the unity and stability of our country. I want to plead with you, my friends, be very careful that your institutions are not abused in the process of these elections.
However, the Interior boss lauded the non-state actors for supporting the vulnerable in the society. He said the government will create an enabling environment for the NGOs to effectively deliver on their mandate.
We commend and celebrate the work of NGOs who have continued to partner with government to do a lot of work towards continuing to combat the COVID pandemic.
The Executive Director of NGOs Coordination Board, Mutuma Nkanata, has said the 4-day exhibition will provide an opportunity for the civil society organizations to interact and share the experiences, lessons learned and challenges.
We have dedicated this week to celebrate NGOs as they have been instrumental in enhancing government efforts in combating COVID-19, as well as helping and improving the lives of the vulnerable during the period.
He said the board has prioritized programs that encourages local philanthropy, especially among the corporates.
The board is committed to delivering on its mandate, including providing advisories to NGOs to align their programs to Kenya's development plan and providing an enabling environment for the organization to thrive.
The report indicates that 200 NGOs were registered this year, bringing the total to 11,890. The theme of this year is celebrating NGOs' adaptation, innovation and resilience in global pandemic.
Now to the courts, the Chief Justice Martha Koome has called for the adoption of the no adjournment policy by the judiciary to expedite cases in court and ease access to justice. The CJ further urged politicians to embrace court-annexed mediation in solving disputes to enhance unity and cohesion.
Speaking during the launch of the Environment and Land Court Users Committees, Chief Justice Martha Koome implored politicians to sort out their differences outside court to enhance cohesion.
We are also encouraging politicians to embrace the court-annexed mediation in resolving their disputes. We are encouraging the political parties' dispute resolution members to encourage the members of the political parties to resolve their disputes through mediation because this encourages them to continue working together and to continue working in harmony.
She stated the judiciary's commitment to a justice system that inspires public confidence and allows people to be actively involved.
So what you're doing to digitize the land registry and the whole land system is going to have a big, huge impact because it's going to reduce even the number of disputes that come to court.
Lands Cabinet Secretary Farida Karonei said the land management system being developed by the government will ensure transparency in the lands ministry.
The government is very keen on the development and deployment of the National Land Information Management System, because we want to provide one credible source of truth on land and land-related information. That's all.
Danish ambassador to Kenya, Ole Thonke, underscored the importance of improved land jurisprudence in environmental conservation. Sentiments echoed by Environment CS Keriako Tobiko and National Lands Commission Chairman Gerishom Otachi.
Environmental legislation, I know it provides a mechanism to enforce both environmental law, determine disputes and obtain compensation.
Emerging jurisprudence, international environmental law is important. The governance, legal governance on oceans, how to deal with biodiversity in ocean areas beyond national jurisdiction. Counties have a role, a major role. In fact, they initiate the process of allocation and regularization of land.
The court users committees will aid the link between the court system and the court-annexed mediation.
The CJ urging the judiciary to adopt the no adjournment policy to expedite cases in court and ease access to justice. We hope that this is actually adhered to. To the sporting arena, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya has signed a memorandum of understanding with Chiromo Hospital Group in a bid to offer mental well-being to athletes and coaches. This comes in the wake of most sporting federations moving a step forward in prioritizing mental health of athletes by undertaking periodic training and assessment of all athletes in their respective federations.
NOC Athletes representative Humphrey Kayange insisted on the need of offering mental well-being to athletes and coaches alike to ensure that they are mentally fit.
We are happy that you've reached out and we're here today to offer this support not only to athletes, even to the support system, which is our coaches and entourage, who spend a lot of time with us.
The Mental Health Partnership's ultimate goal is to change the narrative around mental well-being and enhance the Kenyan athletes' performance.
Now, we are very happy that we found somebody who shares our vision, somebody who shares our feelings in terms of the need to educate, to create awareness, to change conversations around mental wellness. For a long time within the athletes family, mental wellness has not been considered as any other ailment.
We are walking through COVID, now getting into the post-COVID world. We know what our athletes have been subjected to. There could not have been a better time, the leadership of NOC, to incorporate this partnership into enhancing the performance of our athletes.
With about 320 mental health practitioners in Kenya, Chiromo Hospital Group has come to the front and is establishing protective mental mechanisms in the journey of athletes, coaches, and administrators involved.
Preparing our athletes mentally to go to compete, it's something so timely.
This will help prevent mental illness that deters athletes from being at their best and also ease the mental labor subjected to them by the world that is spectating them. This partnership under the leadership of NOC will see athletes open up about their mental status devoid of the stigma that could string along. For sports, I'm Nora Mwangi.
Puts a cap on our news this morning. Remember, further details are available on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. We take a quick breather, but we have so much more, including what is happening on our various, or rather what has been captured by the various dailies in studio with us. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Kujisumbua na tangawizi ambayo haitakufaa na lolote. Nakuwa unapata sauti yako Sasa utanisikiza au
nikorogwe na watu.
Ukisema watu unamaanisha nini? Uko sawa wakili? Nimeshakuona Keti amekuingiza box. Hivyo naweza kugundua kwamba huyu mtoto anaweza kuwa wetu. Mimi na wewe.
Keep abreast of the developments live from the National Assembly and the Senate.
On our members of parliament.
The questions.
When is the construction expected to commence?
The motions.
Beg to give notice for the following motion.
The debate.
Will as many as want to be to say aye?
The statements.
A statement on an issue of general topical concern.
The petitions.
Order number 4, petitions.
Stay tuned to KBC Channel 1 and Radio Taifa for live proceedings from both houses of parliament from Tuesday to Thursday. Live, uncensored, unedited. KBC, your national broadcaster.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us this far. In case you are just joining us, this is Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Mamboy. We now want to quickly look at what have a quick look at what the papers have for us today. Again, we are using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. Now, let me run you quickly through the front page of the Daily Nation. There you have it. The main read being Ruto's big day. This is in line with the big hashtag decision 2022. Ruto's big day, 2 days after firing a broadside against President Uhuru Kenyatta and just hours after receiving political defectors in Embu and Meru. The Deputy President will today stand in front of 4,350 UDA delegates inside the Kasarani Stadium in his quest to be officially named the Kenya Kwanza presidential flag bearer, setting the stage for the big battle, the grand battle with the Azimio team. That is what the main read has for us this day. And still on politics, Jubilee's U-turn on Raila's deputy. So for the longest, the Jubilee administration has been saying that whomever will be chosen as the running mate for Raila Odinga will have to come from Mount Kenya. But now, according to the party's vice chairman, David Murathe, says that that is no longer a priority as long as the fair share of government has been allocated to the Mount Kenya region. Being a number 2 is not as much a priority, and especially now given the entry of Kalonzo Musyoka into this grand alliance. So looking at the possible candidates that were fronted as the deputy, those that will be deputizing Raila Odinga, we have Mr. Peter Kenneth, Mr. Peter Munya, as well as Miss Martha Karua. Now, away from politics, looking at education, yesterday was the first day of the KCSE exams, and it was rocked with its fair share of challenges here and there. And there's a piece here that focuses on a principal that was arrested on the first day of the KCSE. in what has been termed as a show of might by the government. There was a principal that was arrested, a school supervisor, as well as 4 invigilators. They were arrested, and there were some 7 candidates from an adult learning center in Kisumu who did not sit for their exams, as their names were found to be missing on the list of registered candidates. Away from that, there is, of course, the main story concerning the Forest Road assault, given it was the end of the road for the fugitive that has been on the run for almost a week now. He was arrested yesterday when he was attempting to cross the border into Tanzania in line just to try and run away from the authorities, but he was caught. This is, of course, courtesy of the DCI. And finally, KRA is now snooping on businesses. ETR machines will be required to be connected to Times Tower. Alcohol breweries will be fitted with special gadgets to relay production volumes in real time. CCTV cameras installed in all these production companies, and any flagged traders will require a KRA permission in order to transact business the next day. That's the Daily Nation for you this morning. Doreen.
What exactly did they sign? We are talking about Azimio and some of those OCA leaders that were present during that NDC. The main read, confusion in Azimio as allies differ. Yesterday, the spokesperson, that is Makau Mutua, came to say that this was not an Azimio OCA coalition signing, and also there's no provision in the law whereby there can be 2 coalitions signing a pact unless one coalition disintegrates and the parties come in as individual parties to sign in. That is basically also what happened on that Saturday. So what exactly did these 2 persons sign? Kalonzo Musyoka says that if I asked all those party sections present what they affixed their signatures to, nobody knows. And allies of Raila and Kalonzo are now reading from different scripts, with one camp saying they joined as a coalition and the other denying that. Away from that, it is a season of defection as it sets in. Remember that the party primaries are slated for between April 16th and 22nd, so it just means that by March 26th, anyone vying for a seat, and that is an elective seat, needs to belong to a political party except the independent candidates. And as that is going on, the Kalonzo calls OCA meeting to explain his Raila Tosha declaration. You can remember that also during that particular NDC, it was only Kalonzo Musyoka and Kanu's Gideon Moi from the OCA coalition who were present. The others, including Nax, Martha Karua, as well as Cyrus Jirongo and amongst other leaders, were not present during that particular NDC, and this is why Kalonzo feels it is important to call the various other OCA leaders to just explain to them what exactly he meant by that. And also KCSE starts amid claim of leakages as it enters day 2. And lastly, Kenyans to brace themselves for more tough measures, as this story was also made its way during the GMK news brief, and this is after fuel prices rise again. Regina.
Now, talking about, the confusion within the Azimio camp there, this particular daily goes with trouble in Azimio. Confusion galore. Wiper leader now stirs fresh controversy, raising the question about the deal that endorsed Raila for president, and OCA allies appear to be reading from different scripts. Those who have been mentioned in this particular story include Cyrus Jirongo, Martha Karua, and Nick Salat. That is Kanu as well as NAC. And Safina, I think, if I'm not too wrong, no. So matters of politics continue taking center stage right here, where we expect that today is Ruto's big day as he's set to take up the flag, or rather the mantle, so to speak, under UDA for the presidential candidature. That's the Deputy President Party to hold its National Delegates Conference at Kasarani Stadium with Martha Karua and Moses Kuria among the invited guests. Will they show up, and what will this mean? Well, we will be looking at that as we continue talking about matters of politics, as the political scene continues changing each and every day. Then, being KCSE Day 2, there's a story, double intake plan as KCSE exams underway. Various institutions, they're making plans about, the double intake, given, this has been occasioned by the COVID-19 disruptions and such. Then talking about what is happening in Ukraine and Russia. Now, talks have resumed, but Ukraine remains under siege. Petrol prices up as the poor get kerosene relief. This is after EPRA reviewed its petroleum products fuel prices up by 5 shillings. However, kerosene prices remained unchanged. This is a detailed story in this particular daily that also looks at the trickle effect of the increase in fuel prices, where transport and the cost of production is set to go up, and consequently you and I as Wanjiko are expected to tighten up our belts as food and transportation prices are expected to go up. That's just but a sneak peek of what we have in this particular daily, being the 15th of March 2022.
You think I'm taking it well that she said now? You think I'm happy now? No!
Mom!
This isn't true! You're lying!
Jesus, say something. Has anyone here seen Pinky?
I looked everywhere, but I found nothing.
You file a report for a missing person. In situations like this, odds are your sister's no longer alive.
I'm afraid Pinky might have killed herself.
Shannon! Shannon!
Huyu mtoto sitaki atoke kwa hii nyumba bila ya ruhusa yangu.
Mimi lakini mbona umenuna? Kwa mja kapenda?
Muona babake Maya? Sasa huyu amkuja kutugombeza sisi kuhusu Bingu. Yeye ndo amelala na yeye ama ni sisi?
I need you to testify.
Sorry, I cannot do it. Usipoishughulikia upesi itakuua.
Kujisumbua na tangawizi ambao haitakufaa na lolote. Nakuwa unapata sauti yako Sasa utanisikiza au?
Nikoroga na watu.
Ukisema watu unamaanisha nini? Uko sawa wakili? Nimeshakuona Keti amekuingiza box. Hivyo naweza kugundua kwamba huyu mtoto anaweza kuwa wetu. Mimi na wewe.
All right. Thank you for staying with us this far. We are glad you are with us. In case once again you're joining us, karibu tena sana. We are glad you have chosen to start your morning with us here on Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Wamboi. This is Good Morning Kenya. Of course, you can let us know where you're watching us from today. We are using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle ever remains to be at KBC Channel 1 across all the social media platforms. My handle is at Jane Wamboi. So today we start off with our health segment. Contrary to how we usually do it, we usually have people in politics, but today we've switched things up kidogo here and there. But that is that. In regards to health, today we are going to be focusing on cancer treatment here in Kenya, and just generally looking at how we can transform cancer healthcare, and especially when it comes to the delivery in the Kenyan space. Now, before I even introduce my guest this morning, let us set the stage and just look at the numbers as is. So, looking at cancer on a global scale, the cancer burden is estimated to be about 85% in sub-Saharan Africa. It is actually estimated to grow to 85% in sub-Saharan Africa by 2030. Mind you, we're in 2022, okay? Now, looking at developing countries, they bear 80% of the global cancer burden. And when it comes to resources that are allocated to cancer treatment, only 5% is directed to this particular group, and that is developing countries. Now, let's bring it further into Kenya. Looking at our country, cancer has been identified as the third leading cause of death, and this is after infectious and cardiovascular diseases. And the cancer burden, looking at the cancer incidence, the figures currently stand at 47,000 cases annually, a little over that figure, and the mortality rate is at about 32,000. This is over 75% of this particular figure, meaning 75% of people do not survive cancer here in our country. So what is being done to just ensure that we are redirecting more resources and more conversation towards addressing the cancer burden that we are experiencing as a people here in the Kenyan space? Well, to help us with this conversation this morning, we have two gentlemen with us. I'll start with the gentleman to my extreme right. He is Dr. Joseph Lenai, who is the Director of International Health Relations, working with the Ministry of Health. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Jane.
Thank you for making time to be with us today.
You're welcome.
And right next to him, we have Professor Graham Lord, who is the Vice President at the University of Manchester. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Jane. A pleasure to be here.
Thank you for making time to be with us today. Now, let me start with you, Dr. Joseph. You know, when you talk about cancer treatment in Kenya, it's still something that so many people have a lot to say about it, but we need to just take stock and see where we are as a country. So from what you know under the ministry, where are we as a country when it comes to cancer?
Thank you so much, Jane, and thank you, our great friend, Lord Graham. Welcome. In terms of cancer, I think there is a big concern that when you look at the incidences of cancer, there is tremendous increase on the numbers that are being reported.
Yes.
Like when you look at the Globocan report, this is a report which is produced by the International Center for Cancer Research. You find that 2012 we had around like 38,000 cases which were being reported annually. But by 2018 we are reporting like 47,000. This shows there is tremendous increase, and equally also a third of these also end up dying. So when you look at the burden, is tremendously increasing, and hence for the call that we need to rethink about cancer. Look for internal solutions, and also at the same time look at the global solutions.
Yes.
And that's why Kenya has partnered, the Ministry of Health has partnered with the Kenya-UK Alliance in order to take our healthcare and also training to the global level.
All right, beautiful. Now let's come to you, Professor Graham. You know, just to give us a brief background in regards to cancer treatment in the UK. What are the figures looking like?
Well, as you said, cancer globally is a growing burden, and actually you often see more cancer as societies get older. We've had a big focus in the UK over the last 10 years about prevention and early detection of cancer.
Yes.
So part of what our partnership is around is how we learn from what's happened in the UK around prevention and early detection, and how we bring that to all the people of Kenya in partnerships across the two governments. As you said, in Kenya there were sort of 48,000 cases in 2018 and 33,000 deaths. What that means is that sort of 7 in 10 people that get diagnosed with cancer will die of cancer. Most of that is because of late presentation. We know that if you can prevent or detect cancer early, you can treat it and the survival is much better. And so in the UK over the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a big focus on that prevention and early detection. I think what we've found over the last 2 years has been a bit of a fallback from that during COVID. So we have a lot also to learn from the work that we're doing with our Kenyan friends and partners about how prevention and early detection can be done for the whole population in a sustainable way.
All right. Now, we know that health is one of the pillars under the Big Four agenda for the president. And looking at cancer specifically, it's one point that so many people have been struggling with. So comes this particular alliance and this partnership that we have with the UK. What is the background to it? Let me start with you, Dr. Joseph.
Thank you. What you find is that in the Big Four agenda of the president, one of the key pillars is universal health coverage.
Yes.
And of course, we have been fighting with infectious diseases, but with the time you are seeing the reverse, that the trend of infectious diseases is coming down, while the trend for non-communicable diseases is coming up. So even in the president's agenda, and even in the Ministry of Health, we are concerned about cancers, hypertension, mental health is also coming in.
Yes.
So we are looking for solutions internally and even externally. So deliberately, the president, when he went to UK, he has been to UK severally, and last year he was actually there twice. And in July last year, on 29th, we signed an MOU in front of the president and also the Prime Minister Boris with partners in the UK, and looking at two key things. How do we establish a center of excellence on cancer diagnosis, treatment, and even further management, which is at the global level?
Yes.
Then again, how do we establish a ripple effect where we are injecting this knowledge into the training, such that even the people that we produce at the end of the day are oriented in a global approach to cancer issues. So this is a deliberate move by the president himself, and also a deliberate move by the Ministry of Health, led by the CS and the PS, in order to rejuvenate and reinvigorate issues pertaining to cancer. And this journey started. I think we'll be able to tell you more of what we have been able to achieve.
Yes, and that actually brings me to the gaps that, actually necessitated for such a partnership to come into play, looking at cancer treatment and the general conversation around cancer in Kenya. And I'd like for us to just have a quick conversation around those gaps. And the first one that you've just mentioned is when it comes to the healthcare workforce themselves, the human resource, when it comes to their training, to just make sure that it is on a global scale. Let me start with you, Professor Graham. Looking at what you have seen with the professionals in your country when it comes to how they deliver treatment and diagnostics around cancer, what are some of the notable differences that you saw that could be transferred in terms of knowledge to the Kenyan professional workforce?
I think what we see globally, actually, and obviously including the UK and Kenya, is at the moment we have a shortage of supply of healthcare workforce, whether that's doctors, nurses, radiographers, allied health professionals. So actually, in partnership with Kenya, we're looking to see how we can address that workforce gap. So this is a global problem. Clearly, it's important that people are trained across the whole healthcare workforce to the highest global standards. And I think, as my friend said, that's really important as we develop this partnership, that everything we do is the best in the world, and Kenya leads the world in this area.
Yes.
So one of my jobs, I'm the dean of the biggest medical school in the UK, and obviously we train our doctors to a very, very high standard, as you do in Kenya. But I think how we learn through that medical curriculum, and it's not just about doctors, but this is the example that I'm giving, is how we train our doctors for the future as well as for now. I think what we've found in terms of the universal health coverage we have in the UK, which we call the National Health Service, which we're very proud of, we have universal health coverage, which aligns very well with the President's Big Four agenda of universal health coverage, is how you do that in a sustainable way. And what we want the healthcare workers of the future to look like might be different from today. So again, we're learning from our partnership with Kenya about that, about how we focus on public health, prevention and early detection for the future, because that's how you make a healthcare system economically sustainable, and critically how you diagnose patients with cancer earlier.
Thank you. In addition to what Professor is saying, actually the gap is not at the primary healthcare level. Though we need to capacity build our nurses, our clinical officers, who are the front line in the dispensaries and the health centers. That one we are able to do on early detection. The whole thing is, yes, we have been training oncologists. We have been training maybe other people. What you find is there is some super specialization that is required, especially at the physicist. There are people who are called physicist level. There are also specialists who have specialized in certain types of cancers in certain regions of the body or organs of the body. Like a specialist specializing in esophageal cancer just alone, at the fellowship level. Pancreatic cancer alone at the, fellowship level beyond masters. Maybe cancer of the liver, speciality in that. That is what we are looking at.
And that's where there's a gap as well.
And that is where there is a gap. Like in Kenya, we have only 7 physicists. What we are looking at is even this collaboration as we continue, putting radiotherapy machines in Mombasa, Nakuru, Garissa, apart from the ones that we have in Kenyatta and also Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. How do we expand that specialization level?
Yes, and that is actually touches on a conversation that we had a while back here on Good Morning Kenya. There's a time we hosted a 7-year-old girl who was had cancer of the throat, and she couldn't get specialized treatment in Kenya. She had to consult with a doctor all the way from India. So again, that's clearly a gap that needs to be that has been identified.
Then, Jen, we are not waiting for until we train our own.
Yes.
What we are looking at, how do we get hold of their professors to come over, their specialists also to come over, and also embracing technology currently.
Yes.
We are doing a lot of telemedicine between Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital and Manchester University and Christie Foundation Hospital.
All right.
So even they are attending to patients while a specialist from Christie and Manchester is looking at it, at that patient, and even they go through the history, through the diagnosis, and even agree on the laboratory, and even when the results come out, they agree on what is the mode of management. So that is already happening through the UHC agenda.
All right. Now, this is all in line with this partnership that Kenya has with the UK just to make sure that healthcare is no longer a route to poverty that many people have been experiencing. Now, we want to take a very quick breather. We will be back to continue with this discussion. Again, feel free to interact with us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter.
Kujisumbua na tangawizi ambao haitakufaa na lolote. Nakuwa unapata sauti yako Sasa utanisikiza au
korogwe na watu?
Ukisema watu unamaanisha nini?
Uko sawa wakili?
Nimeshakuona Keti amekuingiza box.
Hivyo naweza kugundua kwamba huyu mtoto anaweza kuwa wetu. Mimi na wewe.
You think I'm taking it well that she said now? You think I'm happy now? No!
Mom!
This isn't true! You're lying!
Jesus, say something. Has anyone here seen Pinky?
I looked everywhere, but I found nothing.
You file a report for a missing person. In situations like this, odds are your sister's no longer alive.
I'm afraid Pinky might have killed herself.
Shannon! Shannon!
Welcome back. We continue with this health conversation all about looking at how far we've come when it comes to cancer treatment in Kenya and what more we can do as a people to just make it a smooth journey for each and every individual. In studio this morning, we have Dr. Joseph Lanai, who is the Director of International Health Relations working under the Ministry of Health. We also have with us Professor Graham Lord, who is the Vice President at the University of Manchester. Now, let me come to you, Dr. Joseph, and still looking at those gaps that have been identified, and the biggest one that I believe so many Kenyans and even you can resonate with is when it comes to the diagnostic centers for these services and treatment. It is something that so many people complain about. They have to travel from so far just to come to the urban setups to get treatment. What is being done in regards to this?
And even not just that. You remember those eras of you come to Kenyatta National Hospital, you are booked to be seen 6 months down the line.
6 months later, yeah.
Now that has become a thing of the past since we have opened the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral, PET and SPECT City scans over there. We have also opened, you saw the president opening one in Mombasa.
Yes.
Soon we are going to open one in Garissa and Nakuru. In fact, at the end of this month, we are going to open the one in Nakuru. And we already have a radiotherapy also machine in Garissa. The same thing is going to happen even to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Hospital in Kisumu. We just commissioned the construction of the building the other day.
Yes.
So the whole issue of UHC is addressing the issue of access and of course you avail quality services. Now we are decentralizing these centers. Apart from having maybe a hub, and that is what we are partnering with the Kenya-UK Alliance, having a hub at Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, but with the spokes. Which are these spokes? One, we have a spoke at Egerton University, of course working in collaboration with the Nakuru Provincial Hospital. We have a spoke at Maseno University, which is working in collaboration with Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Hospital. I spoke at Masinde Muliro University, working with the Kakamega Level 5 Hospital, and Kisii University, working closely with the hospital which is there. Now, for the cancer, we are looking at a very big hub, which is already established at Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, but mentoring those spokes. But equally, Kenyatta is being mentored by the Manchester and Christie Foundation Hospital, who are here now to go and reinforce that hub and spoke model in order to see to it, to take it to another level.
All right. Yeah. And that actually brings me to you, Professor Lord. Looking at the question of access to cancer treatment in the UK, how has it been done to ensure that I can get the services to a center that is close to me? I don't have to travel kilometers just to get screening services.
So a great example, and this is what we're working very closely with our friends at Kenyatta University Teaching Hospital and across the whole of Kenya, is how we have a network of cancer services for diagnostics and treatment within Greater Manchester and also across then the whole of the UK. So wherever you are in Greater Manchester, whatever district you're in, you'll get the same treatment as if you went straight into our hub, which is the Christie Hospital.
Quality?
The same. Absolutely the same. And I think the other thing that we've spread that network out even further in terms of the prevention and early detection is actually Manchester has pioneered for the UK and also for the world how we go out and into the community. So we have mobile units and take CT scans and early diagnostics out, even out of hospitals and beyond primary care to where people are when they have some symptoms. So maybe it's a cough, so we'll go and talk to them and give them an early diagnostic to try and prevent lung cancer, for example. So there's a network effect, so you get a minimum standard whichever hospital you go into, and then there's a community effect to spread that network out. So that's how you start to build universal healthcare coverage for cancers, for specific cancers, but also if you build a healthcare system in that sustainable way, it's also useful for cardiovascular disease, for mental health, or even prevention of infectious diseases.
It spills over both
it spills over.
diseases.
Yes.
And borrowing that, what we are applying in the universal health coverage for the president is looking at even those spokes that we are talking about. How do they serve the communities and the counties which are surrounding?
And especially given health is devolved.
Exactly.
Yes.
Looking at Nakuru, it should be able to serve Baringo, Laikipia, serve Nyandarua, and even Narok, you know. So we have a community health strategy In Kenya, you know, we do have those community health volunteers who are there. So in terms of prevention, early detection, as I said earlier on, apart from building capacity in the health centers and the dispensaries of frontline health workers who are the nurses and the clinical officers to detect early, we are also building those who are taking care of the households, who are the community health volunteers. There is already a package.
Okay.
And in addition, you know about the family medicine doctors that we sent to Cuba. They are already back in the country, all of them. And what we are doing is all of them are going to be positioned in the counties, and they will be working on what we call the primary health care network, all the way to the household, looking at dispensaries, health centers, up to the community health level.
Now, let's come to the financial aspect of cancer treatment. You know, they say so many Kenyans are one medical bill away from poverty. And the main goal of UHC is to ensure that every Kenyan gets quality healthcare services without going financially broke. Now, looking at cancer treatment, we know it's not cheap, but how is it being factored in the UHC to ensure that we get that world-class service to each and every Kenyan at an affordable price? Let me start with you, Dr. Joseph.
Thank you. Since we opened 4 months ago, the Center for Cancer Treatment in Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, the center has already attended to more than 300 people within 4 months. What you find is that these are people who could have traveled to India. And what does that translate to? Give it an average of like 2 million is what they could have used to go to Mumbai and other hospitals. So that is, within 4 months, those families have been saved 0.6 billion Kenya shillings. I think he'll tell you, even the statistics that we have, is like we save like 12 billion annually Kenya shillings. We'll save 12 billion Kenya shillings if we decentralize that. And in addition, what are we doing? All these centers that we are establishing, we are also packaging the NHIF package for cancer treatment, management, and even diagnosis. And how is it? All issues pertaining to cancer, from diagnosis, what we call the cancer journey, is being taken care of by NHIF.
In the oncology package that they offer.
Yes, and even we saw testimonies when the president was opening there, with just 6,000 shillings a year, or even 500 shillings a month, or 17 shillings a day, which is actually an egg a day. You are able to attend or get services which are equal to maybe more than 2 million. So we are encouraging also Kenyans to take NHIF because that's the sure bet in order to not to face that financial handicap that comes with cancer.
All right, and just to also hear the same when it comes to the financial aspect, looking at the National Health Service in the UK, how has it been made affordable for all citizens to be able to access quality medical care without fearing the cost implications that would come with that?
Well, so as I mentioned earlier, our National Health Service is essentially universal health coverage. So that was founded in 1948 and with the fundamental principle of free access, free at the point of use. So in the UK, because of the NHS, nobody pays for their healthcare. It's paid for centrally by the government through taxation. So nobody in the UK ever gets a bill for medical treatment. And that fundamental principle and those set of values, which is why this Kenya-UK Healthcare Alliance is so important, because it's about those shared values. What have we learned? How do you make that system affordable? Because somebody has to pay for it. It's either the patient or the government, and actually the people are still paying for it through the government, through taxation. It's just not, there isn't that direct transaction. So as you say, so nobody in the UK is one bill away from bankruptcy. And that's how we're going to try and work with our friends in Kenya to say, this is what you need for universal health coverage, because that worry for everyone is just unacceptable. And that's why I think this Big Four agenda that the President is launching is so important.
Yes.
And the deliberate things that have been done already.
Yes.
Not everyone, of course, can pay for NHIF. We are identifying those who are very poor, what we are calling the indigent population. And NHIF already has them in the system. We are going to pay for 1 million people this year, this financial year, for NHIF. So apart from people taking NHIF, government is also deliberately looking at the poor of the poor who we should be able to pay for. And we expect to escalate that to around 5 million in the next 5 years.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, we have been talking about this Kenya-UK alliance. Maybe somebody is watching and wondering, okay, what is this? When did it happen? It is an agreement that was reached last year in July between Kenya and the UK government. And maybe you could give us those details. Also, we could also get to hear from the UK side of the divide for the benefit of our viewers once again.
The relationship between Kenya and UK is that of a mother and a child, let me call it, that it is so intimate. We have had a lot of good relationship from colonial time and even post-colonial, but this has taken us to another level. The coming together of the Kenya-UK team and universities and individuals has taken our conversation to another level. Now, this just started from the side chats of the president himself and the Prime Minister Boris, where we saw there is a need to have the universities within UK, especially Manchester and even Christie Foundation, to team up, partner with institutions back in Kenya to take this issue of healthcare and UHC to another level.
Yes.
Now, we signed an MOU last year on 29th of July, and this is what we are here to oversee. What have we been able to achieve and even come and reinforce further the spirit that was there, maybe.
Yes, just to add on to that, you know, how do you feel even UK can benefit from this partnership with Kenya?
Well, I like the way you put the mother and child relationship. I might actually put it the other way around. I think the UK has as much to learn from Kenya as the other way around. That's why it's a real equal partnership, but it's led by Kenya, which is why it's the Kenya-UK Health Alliance, not the UK-Kenya Health Alliance. So that's very, very important. We have a huge amount to learn about how you build a sustainable healthcare system almost from scratch. In the UK, we're trying to retrofit all of these new ideas, whereas actually in Kenya, we're doing it, getting it right the first time.
Yes.
So we have a huge amount to learn about how we make that affordable and sustainable and how we reach every person in the population. I think more broadly, the UK and Kenya, as you say, have always had a very strong relationship, and we're now reinforcing that relationship, and it's built on friendship, trust, but also a real shared ambition to bring the best global healthcare to every person in Kenya and every person in the UK.
All right. And Dr. Joseph, what would you say are the priority areas for us as a country in line with this partnership? And you can actually just maybe give us a status update so far, what has been done in line under this partnership, rather.
Thank you. We are focusing on two major areas.
Yes.
Mainly establishment of centers of excellence for cancer care. We are also looking at establishing center of excellence on health education and training and production of workforce who are resilient and able to respond to the needs of the nation. In addition, again, of course, we are not just stopping there. We are still exploring in other areas where we can be able to collaborate. Things like vaccines production. We are looking at manufacture of pharmaceuticals. We are also looking at even genomics and genomic sequencing issues. What you find is that even the drugs that we use here in Africa, most of them have not been tested or clinical trials have not been done with the blacks. So to us, it's also an opportunity to be able to do more research, especially on diseases and pharmaceuticals and even clinical trials, especially in the blacks, because most of these things have been done in the Caucasians. Mental health, of course, we are collaborating with others, but it's also a field to explore. There is already a conversation going on between Mathare Hospital and Oxalis Health Foundation. So those are the things we are looking at. And of course, post-COVID, what are some of the things that we can be able to take to another level?
All right. Yeah. And speaking of taking things to the next level, when it comes to exchange programs, how is that also being factored in to just make sure that even the transfer of technology is, you know, flowing seamlessly between Kenya and the UK?
We've already established, and in fact it was something that I announced with the President in July of last year when we signed the MOUs. We've already established some scholarships, the Jomo Kenyatta scholarships for students from Kenya to come over to Manchester. We're we have a number of exchange programs for the reverse to occur as well. And actually part of our visit this week is to try and establish the firm foundation for that, so that more and more people can come over to Manchester, learn about medical physics. We can then combine that with sort of telemedicine and hybrid working, so that we make this a very sustainable partnership.
Yes.
I think now the other aspect of the partnership that I should emphasise is how we're partnering on research, and particularly as you mentioned around genomics, there are lots of treatments that are given to an African population that we don't know how effective they are, because as you say, they've been tested in Caucasian populations, and we know that the genetic background is very different, but we don't know how it's different and how that affects treatment responses. So that feeds into the other part of how you make a sustainable healthcare system. If you're giving treatments, you need to know that they work. You need to know that they're effective for them to be cost effective. So we have a very, very deep partnership with researchers in Kenya and in the UK around, particularly related to cancer. What are the causes of cancer? How can we treat it better? Because actually if we treat it better or we diagnose it earlier, it's also cheaper, and that's when you can cure patients. So there's a very holistic partnership for the Kenya-UK Health Alliance that covers a lot of areas.
R&D is always a critical area, and it's actually a very big gap. We had a conversation a while back with the Mary University, still focusing on research and development. Now, looking at technology in terms of keeping up with the times, and the fact that we acknowledge the fact that there's some specialized cancers that require specialized treatment, and those professionals could not be in the country, therefore coming in the whole aspect of telemedicine. How is it being factored in to just make sure that every Kenyan can actually get these services from a professional who might not be in the country, but they don't have to, you know, travel all over the world just to get the services? Telemedicine being adopted in the health facilities.
This was even started before even the MOU was signed, in that Manchester University signed an MOU before, even with the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital. So the point is that the first win that they had was establishing the telemedicine network, where they could see patients together, diagnose together, and even agree on the management. That has been ongoing. And there is already a platform in the digital platform for MOH where they are riding on that. Now, in addition to that, what you find is that now Kenyatta University is supposed now to start with the spokes that we have over there. Of course, we are embracing technology in this era. It goes even to the extent of even sharing things like radiological imagings and so. So we are looking at the whole spectrum of health, where we can be able to share with specialists on the other side. And there are testimonies even by patients that are true. Were it not for even that collaboration, would have not gotten where we are.
Now, the question of awareness is something that we cannot fail to address, just making sure that all this information that we are having here gets to each and every citizen, the common mwananchi. And looking at the UK, what has been done to just make sure that this information flows seamlessly between the professionals and the citizens, that they know, if I need this type of service for this cancer, I can get it here, and I know the steps to take to get this service?
In the UK, we have a system of sort of primary care, which is usually the sort of first point of contact for patients to go to a general practitioner, and then there is onward referral from there. But actually, and I emphasise, we have a lot to learn from our Kenyan partners here, because that information flow and understanding, making patients understand what the early symptoms of disease are, is absolutely critical. So actually, part of that information flow is doing interviews like this and telling people about the symptoms and what facilities that they can access. In the UK, we do a lot of work around digital sort of apps on people's phones to get information out to them. This is a developing area. And again, to my earlier point, this is where we're going to learn a lot from our Kenyan partnership, because actually in terms of that digital infrastructure, Kenya is much more advanced than the UK. You have universal 5G coverage. So how you utilise that in this partnership to get information out to patients through their phones and different functions like that is going to be really important.
Yes, because that's the other area of concern, where people seek treatment when it's a bit too late, yet the symptoms have been manifesting. They have been taking over-the-counter medicine to just deal with the pain because they do not know this information or do not have access to it. What is being done to this end?
I think knowledge is the first remedy in terms of prevention. And when you look at the statistics that we have, breast cancer leads in Kenya, followed by cervical cancer, esophageal cancer, then prostate, then colorectal. Now, I think it's very, very important for people, one, to embrace change of lifestyle in order to prevent.
Yes.
Now, what are some of the things that we are telling people to avoid? Things like alcohol, things like smoking, you know, they need to avoid all that. In addition, again,
yes,
you need to do self-breast examination, you know, and when you find a lump, kindly don't assume, because most of the cancers, sometimes they are painless. You are just having a lump and it is painless. So it's good you take precaution as early as possible. When it comes to cervical cancer, if you have any abnormal bleeding, or even maybe any fall discharge which is coming out, or even any pain maybe during the time that maybe you are maybe having some, you know, what we call the reproductive engagement. So if you have pain, what we call dyspareunia, I think it's important you take an action.
Agreed.
When it comes to esophageal, if you have any difficulty in swallowing, which usually starts with the solid, then liquids, I think it's good you take precaution as early as possible. Then for things like prostate, if you have any difficulty in urination, maybe you are having, maybe it's coming out slowly, and so you need to take precaution as early as possible. Or even for colorectal, which is number 5, if you have any bleeding in the stool, or you are seeing some blood in the stool or so, you need to take precaution. So knowledge of how these things manifest is usually the first way to prevent or even diagnose. And if you have that knowledge, you will help yourself first in order to prevent this. So what we are telling people is avoid things that may expose you to getting cancer. And apart from that, have the habit of self-checks. And also what we're encouraging is families even to take precaution in terms of having the regular family checkups every 6 months or even once a year. Take your wife, take your children for just general checkup, and hospitals are able to do that and even detect early.
Beautiful. Remember, this is a conversation around the state of cancer in our country and the steps that are being taken by government to ensure that service delivery is no longer a problem. Each and every Kenyan can access treatment and medical services when it comes to cancer. Just transforming the whole cancer approach in Kenya. And we welcome your questions if you have any in regards to this matter. And there's a question that has been directed to Professor. Valerio is asking, are we going to be seeing professionals also coming to Kenya for training, because you have mentioned the whole aspect of global standards?
Yes, so that's very much part of the development of this Centre of Excellence in Kisii County for healthcare and training. And we very much see this as a bilateral relationship whereby we'll have professionals coming here. And in fact, as we talked about the economic benefit of keeping people in Kenya for PET scanning for cancer, over time, you will be able to generate, if you like, international students coming into this country from outside of Kenya for training in medicine and nursing, and that's what makes the whole healthcare system sustainable. So if you have those global standards that the partnership will work towards around giving you that assurance that this is at a global standard, actually you can generate work and training for people coming into Kenya from all over the world, and that's a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, the question of quality, you know, we just, I think this is someone who's speaking from a point we just don't want to go there. You should also send people over in our country to learn.
Yes,
now,
absolutely.
Yes, the next question, maybe Dr. Joseph, you could address when it comes to making sure these services get to the local Mwananchi down in the village. Looking at the rural setup, again, it's something that I know you had touched on, but again, it's a question that has been asked.
Thank you. I explained about the establishment of the primary health networks with our Cuban family physicians who are already in the country, the ones we trained in Cuba. We have decentralized them to the counties. And what you are finding is that they have established a system of where they can visit the level 4s, visit the health centers, and visit even the dispensaries, and be in touch also with the community health volunteers who are manning the households. So the primary health network that we have established following our UHC strategy is what will be able to ensure that. And of course, what are we also doing? There is the reverse referral that we are looking at. There are mobile medical equipment that will also be available. Things like cryotherapy machines, colonoscopy machines, which are portable, they will be going with them to the lowest level possible, even up to the household.
All right. Now, a final one from Faith the Thinker. She says, I love this work that is being done when it comes to cancer treatment, but you should also focus on maternal health care. In as much as it is free in public health care facilities, it still remains to be wanting. Yes, that is all I can read for TV. Again, the question of maternal health care. Yeah. This is all in line with the universal health coverage, ensuring that you get any medical service at an affordable price and it is of good quality. Now, that brings us to a close of this conversation. I don't know if you have any social media platforms that our viewers can engage with you later. Joseph?
Yeah.
Are you on the social media platform?
Yeah.
How can our viewers interact with you?
I'm on Twitter. At Joe Lenai.
Joe Lenai?
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Professor?
We don't have a social media platform, but actually I think we'll do it through our partners in Kenya.
Yeah, fantastic. I think also MOH has a platform.
Yes, MOH, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's also another platform that we can engage in.
Digital, embracing technology.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right, now that brings us to a close of this conversation. We have been speaking with Dr. Joseph Lenai, who is the Director of International Health Relations, working under the Ministry of Health. We have also been speaking with Professor Graham Lord, who is the Vice President at the University of Manchester. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for making time to be with us today.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
All right. Now, we are not done with Good Morning Kenya. We're going to take a very quick breather. We will be back with more that we have lined up for you. Do stay with us.
You think I'm taking it well that she said now? You think I'm happy now? No!
Mom!
This isn't true! You're lying!
Jesus, say something. Has anyone here seen Pinky?
I looked everywhere, but I found nothing.
You file a report for a missing person. In situations like this, odds are your sister's no longer alive.
I'm afraid Pinky might have killed herself.
Shannon! Shannon!
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
I already thought of something that will speed things up.
How dare you throw stones at your own family when you yourself had been unfaithful to me for so long? I know everything, Eduardo.
This.
You deserve more than that.
But now everything is just falling apart. You're the only one that I have right now.
Swear in front of her grave that you didn't kill her.
Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
I already thought of something that will speed things up.
How dare you throw stones at your own family when you yourself had been unfaithful to me for so long. I know everything about
Niece.
You deserve more than that.
But now everything is just falling apart. You're the only one that I have right now.
Swear in front of her grave that you didn't kill her.
Lying heart. Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
Huyu mtoto sitaki atoke kwa hii nyumba bila ya ruhusa yangu.
Mimi lakini mbona umenuna? Kwani hujapenda?
Muona babake Maya?
Sasa huyu amkuja kutugombeza sisi kuhusu Bingu. Yeye ndo amelala na yeye ama ni sisi?
I need you to testify.
Sorry, I cannot do it. Usipoishughulikia upesi itakuua.
Welcome back to the program. This is still Good Morning Kenya. Time for our second conversation this Tuesday morning. And as we talk about the youths being the leaders of tomorrow, what about today? What happens today? And what opportunities are there available for the youths when it comes to leadership and governance? That is our conversation this morning. Our focus being on perspective of youth when it comes to leadership and governance. My guests are on set. They'll be helping us dissect this conversation all together and helping us understand just where exactly the youth lie when it comes to leadership, governance, and politics all together. I'm joined by Dr. Sylvester Obongo to my extreme right. He is the Director of Performance and Service Delivery Transformation at the Public Service Commission. Right next to him is Jim India, the Program Manager at Emerging Leaders Foundation Africa. And lastly, I'm joined by Andrew Levi. He is the Global Senior Manager at Emerging Public Leaders USA. Gentlemen, karibu sana to the program. Let me start with you, Daktari. This is actually different entities coming together to form the Public Service Emerging Leaders Fellowship. Tell us about this formation, what it's all about, the aim, why it was formed, and what it's set to do.
Thank you very much. What is emerging is that any organization worth its salt must deliberately develop its leadership. So this is a very deliberate move for the Public Service Commission to ensure that the public service has a pipeline of leaders. We are doing that in collaboration with private sector partners because the public sector does not exist in isolation. And this program has been implemented in the Liberia with a level of success and Ghana. But we have contextualized it to the Kenyan situation, where we are actually selecting from among young public servants who have served for 1 year and less to take them through a systematic and a deliberate leadership program that will ensure that they are ingrained in values of public service, that they are leaders who are citizen-focused, that they are leaders who are citizen-oriented and service delivery focused. So that, for me, any organization worth its salt for continuity must deliberately develop its leadership.
All right. You'll be chatting out 50 youths today because that event is going to be taking place today. What are you seeing in mind in terms of the kind of impact these young leaders are going to have in the society? Jim?
Thank you. So at Emerging Leaders Foundation, for the last 10 years, we have been in the business of training, supporting, and particularly mentoring young leaders from across the country in different sectors. And until very recently, we started this partnership with our partners from Emerging Public Leaders in the US and the Public Service Commission here. Our interest was, how do we then support young people who are within the public space? Because we have a huge number. The public service in Kenya has, for the last about 10 years, been really bringing in a lot of young people through internship programs and retaining quite a number of them. But over time, our interest is in the event that we have a huge chunk of the civil service who are actually going to exit the civil service, are we preparing young people to actually take up leadership at that particular time? And so this investment is to prepare, position strategically young people who have gone through a rigorous meritocratic process of selection and who have been identified as potential next leaders of the public service, who will then influence the public service. Because we have realized that our issue has never been about capacity. Our issue has never been, all the issues that we talk about the civil service have been grounded on values. And that is our interest, raising values-based leaders at the end of the day. And so the 50 of them are going to be trained for a whole year. They will be trained on the rigor of the public sector. They will be again paired with the mentors who will walk with them the journey. Those who have gone ahead of them, those who will tell them things that otherwise they will not be taught in class, those who will show them the ropes and you know, what I would call the secrets of being within the public service, that will prepare them when their time does come. And so that for us is what we see as potential influence of these young people, that in the next 20 years we will not have a leadership gap. In the next 10 years, we'll have young people ready, equipped to take the mantle from those who have gone ahead of them, and they will be grounded on values.
I mean, Levi, James says that we'll not have a leadership gap in the next, number of years. He's mentioned it's a question of values. What are you bringing to the table as emerging public leaders to this entire public service Emerging Leaders Fellowship?
Okay, that's a fantastic question, Doreen. And first of all, good morning, Doreen, and good morning to all Kenyans who are watching, particularly the youth. So, as has been said, if you want to enjoy the shade, you don't start to plant a tree today. You plant a tree before, and then you enjoy the shade when the time comes. So our view as emerging public leaders is, we were based in the US and we saw that there's a gap in Africa. And this particular gap is that the public service is such a critical component of development. And we know that the youth demographic in Africa is extremely high. And so we saw an intersection of opportunity there. There's a saying that comes from the public service, whether young people have a call and a will to serve. And how we come in as emerging public leaders is that we marry the call and the will to serve with an opportunity to serve. And so this opportunity is for 50 fellows across the whole breadth of Kenya, the 47 counties. And this particular fellowship has about 50% of them are female, 50% of them are male. We also have persons with disability represented.
So
we
it's
see
all
that
inclusive?
every single youth member has a part to play in the course of development.
Okay.
We started in Liberia under the office of President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf by our founder Elizabeth Williams in the US. We moved to Ghana, where they needed to attract youth, and that was under the office of the Vice President. And here we have the privilege of working with the Public Service Commission and various other partners, including Emerging Leaders Foundation, to create this program. And we think that the youth, these 50 who will be coming into this program, have the chance to dynamically impact policy shaping and service delivery.
I mean, Daktari, from what Levi is saying, clearly it's a holistic kind of program, because he's talked about the persons with disability, the men, women. Clearly there's no gender bias. So how do you go about sourcing these young people?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, apart from what you said, we have actually chosen one from every county.
Okay.
Those who qualified. So we want to ensure that we carry everybody along. The process was competitive. Because we are developing public sector leaders, we wanted those people who have joined the public service. So what did we do? We sent out application calls last November. We said they must have served for 1 year or less in the public service. And we also gave them an opportunity to give us a 500-word essay on what they see their role and future in the public service. Believe you me, we only needed 50, but we had 5,000 applicants. And the most interesting thing is that 3,000 applicants were from outside the public service. So we are realizing that there is need really for leadership development, just not in the public service, from outside. Out of the 5,000 applicants, 3,000 were from outside the public service. So those ones were disqualified based on that, because we are focusing on the public service. 1,200 applicants did not do the essay, so we knocked them out. 733 did the essays. So we had 733 potential candidates. From the 733, we therefore went through the essays rigorously and other qualifying criteria. We came up with a short list of 164. From the 164 we shortlisted, we took them through the interviews, we ranked them. And then in our selection criteria, we therefore chose the leading from each county. But what he will not tell you is that by the time we are doing the final tally on Friday, in fact, we have got 27 ladies and 24 men. So we are taking the affirmative action beyond the minimum threshold.
Well said. Let's stick on that 3,000 a bit that were not in public service and had applied. I mean, what are you doing as a commission? Because obviously not everyone will be in public service, and I might want to be part of this program. So is there anything that is being done, or just it's a must, you have to really be in public service?
As a public service commission, my constitutional mandate remits me, the Public Service Commission. I cannot recruit for Barclays Bank. I cannot recruit for Standard Chartered. I cannot recruit for any organization. You say, so really. But beyond that, maybe this is coming up. Beyond that, after this launch, we're actually developing a concept that will see us collaborate with the private sector and post youth through our internship program to the private sector. We've also been running an internship program now for the last 4 years, and we are in our 4th cohort. We take 3,000 fresh graduates who have not joined the public service, and we post them to the public service institutions. But we've realized that the need is so high that when we have only 3,000 positions, last year we had 46,000 applicants. That's why we are realizing that we have already reached out. I've already reached out to the core. I've already reached out to FKE. We're reaching out to KMA so that we can form a collaboration outside this fellowship program that will see us actually recruit interns and post to the private sector institutions where they can grow.
Well said. I like... You want to get into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Doreen, I think this is a fantastic problem that we have on our hands. The young people want to be involved in public service and in leadership and to be on the decision-making table. For us as emerging public leaders, as I mentioned, whilst we're based globally, we are partnering with many organizations and many governments. And what we see is that there's an opportunity to work with the Public Service Commission as we're doing, but going forward, there's an opportunity to also engage with state corporations, with county governments, and also with organizations that are not part of government, but frequently interface with government. So we see that as also another aspect or an avenue for us to pursue going forward. And I think these young people should be happy because in due course, at least they know that their concerns are on the table and we actually want them to make a difference. It should not be lost on us also that it's individuals such as Tom Boyer, who only at the age of 29 designed the US airlift to go and send at least 81 students to go study in the US. One of those students became a Nobel laureate, Wangari Maathai. So what we can say is that the young people deserve to be here, and it's our job and the job of many other stakeholders to create these opportunities, as Emerging Leaders Foundation has also been doing.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying about the 3,000, and we thought that was an interesting statistic, that a majority of those who are looking for opportunities are outside. Of course, government can only employ a small number of the population. Yes. And we know the reality is one of our unemployment statistics, but there's clearly, this is good that young people are looking for opportunities to grow. Young people are looking for opportunities to develop themselves, and they're not sitting at home and saying we want opportunity, that, we want to be in leadership spaces or we want to be at decision-making table. They are actually looking for those opportunities. And the question now would be for people like in our spaces, in the NGO space and in the private sector, how do we create more of those opportunities? And over the last 10 years, we have actually been creating those opportunities by running leadership programs with now is the first time that we're getting to do this with government, but we've been opening up spaces for young people who are willing. And for the last 10 years, we've trained over 10,000 young leaders spread across different spaces, spread across the breadth of this country, and supporting them to how do they hold their leaders accountable at the county level? How do they start their own organizations that respond to solutions at their community level? How do they go back to their communities? Because you have a lot of young people who come to cities and towns and they become successful and forget about where they're coming from. Yeah. And our leadership trainings and trainings have been focused on supporting them to then realize that they have a duty back to their communities to start look at challenges within those communities, start organizations, start initiatives that then respond to that. And over the last 10 years, we have seen that young people are capable, if given the opportunity, and if with the right mentorship, of creating solutions within their communities that then transform the whole community.
You mentioned trainings. Talk to us a bit about that. What really happens in terms of trainings? Because again, you also talked about mentorship, networking, churning out leaders that are very ethical. So really, what exactly happens there? So
for this particular program, what is going to happen is this week, we have the 50+1. We added an extra fellow. We needed 50, but we added one more fellow just to sweeten things up. And they will be going through their orientation. And so the entire week, they will be trained on, what is the public service. And we have facilitators who are coming in. And our facilitators are actually practitioners. They are people who have been in the public service. You're not bringing in facilitators who come to theorize about the public service and who come to say what the public service should be. We have people who have been at the very top of public service facilitating sessions with these fellows. And remember that they're already in the public service. So we're not telling them anything new, but we're talking to them about their day-to-day training. So our trainings are very practical in nature. They are facilitated in nature. And so a lot of the solutions are coming from the fellows. It's also very practical because we have what is called, we'll have a root cause analysis challenge where we present them with a challenge and they come up with solutions in real time and present it before a panel and say, this is a public policy challenge. For instance, right now there is the border, which is a public policy issue. Yeah. It is beyond anything, it is a public policy issue. And so we can present them with such a solution, such a challenge, and ask them, as a public servant, what would be your solution to such a challenge? And they would present back and we would award the best solutions that come our way. And so to that extent, we help them create a lot of community among themselves. We help them to talk among themselves. We connect them with those who are already in the public service, like Dr. Sylvester and others like him who have availed their time, who have availed their experience to us and to these fellows to actually get to interact with them. And throughout this week, these fellows will be then exposed to what the program is about. After that, we'll take a break, and during that break, they'll be going back to their stations, but we will have a performance management criteria where we will be asking them, monitoring their performance, monitoring how they're doing at their workstations. We are pairing up, the mentors that we are pairing them up with are mentors within the public service who are working with them on a daily basis. And so these mentors are reporting back to us on the progress of the fellow is reporting to us on their progress. And so what you're realizing is it's not a lecture. We are not calling them to a workshop for 1 week and then sending them back to their workstations. We are actually interacting with them the entire time that they are working for the next 1 year that we will be with them until graduation.
So it's more practical.
Yes.
What is the vision of PCELF, Dr. I mean, this is the first lot or the first cohort that you're churning out. How does it look like in the future?
Yeah, for me, it looks very bright. One thing that maybe we have never realized is that we are not just offering an employment opportunity. We are offering a platform to operate at a global level. The public service offers a global platform. And for me, that is what excites me. The curriculum we have put in place takes the fellows through a systematic development stage. It takes them through the public sector at times is a very complex organization to understand. It has got different ministries, it deals with various issues. If you are in the Ministry of Finance, you are dealing with the finances. If you are in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you are dealing with the outside countries. If you are in internal security, you are dealing with within the country. So a government and all those sectors must come together. For me, this opportunity is not just a mere employment opportunity. So I'm not looking at it as you are only offering 50, but I'm saying that I'm offering 50 an exposure to expand. I'm offering 50 to see things differently, to see things at a country level, to understand how are we as a country developing, where are we coming from. When I went to first year, there were only 3,150 graduates in Kenya. There were only 2 universities. That has changed. But is the competition any less? No, it was as competitive as it is now. What defines you from an everyday person is your ability to understand your environment and ride on it. The environment is extremely competitive. We are training and exposing these people to understand where is the government going and where are we leveraging. At the very best, the government is a facilitator of the environment. We want them to understand that in their positions, we expect them to be innovative, come up with extremely innovative solutions to all the issues that come up. We want them to think not only outside the box, but without the box, because that society has changed. With globalization, with ICT spreading across, we are operating at a completely different environment. But the biggest challenge is that the citizen is enlightened more than ever before. So we want them to be able to interact effectively with the citizens. We are preparing them for the public service of the future. We are not in a position where we could say, maybe at independence, that the government has decided. Currently, there is a lot of this thing of public participation. But what type of public do you meet? If you don't prepare, and as I said at the beginning, I believe that any organization worth its salt must project its vision in the future and see what type of people or what type of leadership do they need. That is what we have come up with. Yes, at independence, we had Kenya Institute of Administration. But we are saying, yes, it served its purpose at this critical point in time. We are not also ruling out or sidelining the current existing leadership training institutions. But you've realized that we have carefully structured this program to ensure that we are within the context of our leadership development. There are already interns in the first cohort who have transitioned into the public service, because our internship program does not guarantee you employment in the public service. So after that first exposure, we are targeting those who have barely joined in, those who have not yet gotten into the traditions and gotten comfortable, waiting to be promoted. No, we want therefore these people who have just joining in to be therefore ingrained to be the thinkers of the future. So what we're saying really is that in collaboration with EPL and ELF, we have come together to co-develop a curriculum that will ensure that we take some of these issues into consideration. The public service, one of the things the public service teaches is really patience. It teaches that you know you join in at a lower level and you grow systematically. The narrative that is really coming up is, especially among the youth, we need to be at the decision table. But when you are at the public service and the emerging leaders, what you are telling them, if you work hard, you will for sure be on that table. If you perform, you will for sure be on that table. But that is not the beginning.
Okay.
That's not the beginning. Being on that table requires a what? A process.
We'll come to that, Dr. We'll come to that just in a bit. Let me pick your mind on just what he is saying, because clearly it's a clear vision. There's exposure, participating on a global network, and really from where you sit, when it comes to that aspect of networking, because it's part of what you're really hands-on, how do you go about this in the program?
Thank you. That's a fantastic question. I think, first of all, I just want to say that Dr. Sylvester is right, that we are offering a world-class training opportunity. We have partnered with Chandler Institute of Governance in Singapore. And so essentially what we have is a curriculum that's been co-developed between those who understand the Kenyan context, those who understand the global context, even in the US and across Africa, such as ourselves, emerging public leaders, Singapore, who are a model for governance for very many countries, and the experience that ELF brings in training. So I was thinking about it. When we interviewed some of these candidates are stationed in difficult places such as Kakuma. So there's a candidate who's in Kakuma as a correctional officer. Now this individual will have the opportunity to engage with leaders such as President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, leaders such as Ambassador Mutara, leaders such as Bitangi Demo, people who have a lot of experience and who have a lot of insights to share. These individuals will focus on becoming more citizen-centric. They'll understand not just what public engagement is, but also how to do it, the various mechanisms for doing it. They'll also understand the distinction between public service leadership and leadership in general, because there are many trade-offs there. For example, making sure that there's enough equity as well as efficiency. And if there's anything that one considers, a lot of the alumni in our network, and to your question on networking, our alumni in Liberia have gone on to become cabinet ministers. They've gone on to go to missions in the UN and lead them. In Ghana, it's a very similar case. In Ghana and Liberia, our fellows are the ones who helped spearhead the response to COVID-19, and very successfully. So from our context, we see this as an opportunity for our fellows in Kenya to network with people who are not better than them, but who are their peers in every single sense. If there's anything to what Dr. Sylvester said about youth coming to the table, I think that Jim and I being on this seat is evidence of the fact that if you work hard enough and you seize these opportunities such as our fellowship, you'll find yourself at this decision-making table and be able to stretch out a hand for other young people to join. And that is not to say that Dr. Sylvester is not young. He's a young person, certainly youthful at heart.
Young at heart.
He's
young at heart, yeah.
Let's talk a bit about that. I mean, he's really touched big on the networking bit, because I tend to always think all the time, especially when it comes to youth, the aspect of mentorship which you touched on and networking is always a big issue. Someone said that your network is your net worth. Yes, he's talked about it, but also in the Kenyan perspective, how do you navigate this among this youth that you get to the program?
As we've said, in Kenya we define youth as 18 to 35. In many other jurisdictions it is 15 to 24. And so I think in Kenya we have tried to accommodate the youthful at heart in our definition of youth. And our networks, what we believed is, one is among the youth themselves, there's enough wealth of knowledge, there's enough wealth of experience that we tend to connect them. And so we do what is called movement building. But how do you connect like-minded young people in the public sector, in a county, in whatever sector that you get into? How do you ensure that you're able to identify young people who are like-minded, who share the same vision of leadership and transformation, and ensure that they form a think tank among themselves, and they are able to then influence one another? The second bit where we get the networking from is from those who've gone ahead of them, as we've said. And so for every young person that we bring in, one of the things we look at is, what are you working on? So if someone is in communications or we try to ensure that we are connecting them with someone who's gone ahead of them in that particular field of communication, because we want them to grow. We want them, success doesn't happen overnight, as we'll come to appreciate. It is a journey and it is a systematic process that goes ahead. And we have seen a lot of these mentors expose our young people to opportunities within their networks. We've seen them give them not just jobs, because sometimes when you think of opportunities, we think about jobs, but there have been opportunities of saying, hey, there's an interview at KBC and they're looking for a young person who can speak on youth in politics. Are you interested in going? And opening that door for them and ensuring that that young person gets to get that opportunity. Hey, I know there's a workshop or there's a seminar happening somewhere, and I think it would be important for you to be in that room and listen to that seminar. There's a training that's worth an X amount of money. Are you able to then, collect from your family or from your friends and attend that particular training? There is a scholarship that is being offered. Please apply for this scholarship. And so exposing the young person to as many opportunities as possible for personal development and growth. Because when that happens, is this young person, at any given time, a young person has at least 5 people that they can influence, because young people are the greatest influence of themselves. And so if you're exposing one young person to such great opportunities, you're essentially exposing at least 5 other young people to such opportunities, because they're able to influence one another. So that's how we create a network. We create a network by ensuring that we have, within any ecosystem, we have one young person that we can count on, train them, give them as many opportunities as possible, and then in turn, they're giving it back, and there's peer mentorship happening among themselves. Those of them who cannot access, for instance, you're only able to get 50, but as we've said, this 50, we are sure are going to influence at the very least, another 150 young people within the public service. So there's a ripple effect to any kind of opportunity that you give to young people. And as I said at the beginning, young people are capable if given opportunities and if exposed to opportunities at that age.
Well said.
Let me just
hold that thought. We want to take a very quick break. When we return, we're coming back with you to chime into that as we continue this conversation. Time for that break. Stay with us. We come back to continue the conversation.
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
I already thought of something that will speed things up. How dare you throw stones at your own family when you yourself had been unfaithful to me for so long? I know everything at
This.
You deserve more than that.
But now everything is just falling apart. You're the only one that I have right now.
Swear in front of her grave that you didn't kill her.
Lying heart. Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición. Ngimate gaska watu tegu. Ngimate yatmugul dang. Ngimate manguge. Nyange begi putina. Lale yo kimi give again. Lale yo Kitwek FM gigosi. Lale yo Kitwek FM gigosi. Kitwek FM gigosi. 98.0 Kitwek FM gigosin.
Welcome back, and many thanks for staying with us. We're still on with youth leadership and governance as our conversation this morning, and my guest is still on set helping us dissect that. Terry, before we went to break, you had something to say.
Yeah, I just want to illustrate on the networking and the practical aspect of it. We got the first cohort of interns in 2019. And after my first session with them, I told others that if you'd like maybe to get some of these opportunities, please, you can contact me. A young man contacted me, came to my office. He said he wanted to do a master's. We looked at the available opportunities. We worked with him. I did his recommendation. I contacted the university. The university wrote to me back. He got a full scholarship on mathematical modeling for engineering, one of the prestigious schools in Europe. He was admitted. Last December, he told me he has been admitted for a PhD. I did his recommendation. But one thing that happened also, he sent me the link for the intake, and I shared the link in another group. So really, networking is critical. Our main aim really is also to network this youth. I also, as a graduate of University of Newcastle, Australia, if I recommended you up to last year, you would get a $10,000 rebate on your fees. And a number of young people took it. So we talk about networking, we're talking about opportunities. These are not things that we're talking in this space. They are practical. And therefore networking this young can have a ripple effect, you say, as Jim said. So one of our critical aims of the internship program is one, to ingrain them into the public service, to network, and also give them industry experience. For the fellowship, we want to build them into future leaders. But networking is not out of the mix. Networking is also one of them. We want to expose them at the highest level of decision making. We want to expose them and make them know really how did the leaders of yesterday make it. So for me, that is a critical ingredient of our current leadership development program.
Well said, well said. And I mean, let me just stick with you on this one, because yes, you're talking about networking, mentorship, very important, but what is stopping young people from engaging in these leadership positions, or even taking them all together without idolizing those that have gone before them? Because you can mentor me, but sometimes I may really not bring out my best because I just want to be like you who has mentored me.
We've got mentorship and coaching.
Okay.
You say, most of the time, yes, if a youth says that they want to be like me, I've served for 31 years in government. But you see, shadowing my path is extremely difficult. I started my career in National Treasury before completely shifting into the public sector policy arena. So you see, you can't say that I want to start at Treasury, then go to Cabinet Office, then go to the Ministry of maybe Minister of Public Service, then end up at the Public Service Commission. It's not really about being like me. It is about the principles, learning how did I make it. You see,
yes.
I've had an opportunity to work both in the private and in the public sector. So really, and I understand the youth. When also at my youthful steps, I thought I was extremely educated, having come back with a master's, and I thought government was not paying me much. So I went to the private sector. I went to PricewaterhouseCoopers. But within 2 years, I made a retreat and came back to the government. And really, I think that exposure is important. But if you do not tailor it and make it systematically, a few can succeed through trial and error. But we want to say, why don't we make it systematic? That they know from this stage, they go to this stage, rather than leaving them to trial and error. Maybe they are leaving today because they don't know what awaits them tomorrow. Maybe the people they have interacted with are people who have had a bad experience in the public service. Maybe the people who have made them leave did not really know what is the long-term plan. If you expose the long-term plan, then we are saying that we can have a higher rate of retention. Because I know if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, then I will be there. So that is, for me, that is the path we are trying to chart with them. The public sector is so big. It has got very different people with very different inclination. They might not treat them the same way I will treat them.
Yes.
But if therefore they happen to land on a person who does not treat them well and then they leave, then we'll be losing. So what we're saying, as part of this mentorship, drawing for them a clear path and coaching, then they might see the end term goal that the government prepares for them. That way, we can be able to retain them.
Okay, well said. Do you think that civic education is a deterrent to most of these young leaders or the youth as a whole? Because you can talk about mentorship, the trainings, networking, being in the decision-making table, but is it a missing link?
That's an interesting question as to whether civic education is a missing link for understanding these opportunities. I don't think so. Okay. And let me just make a few controversial statements. We are in the information age, and there's no better demographic to understand what is available on the internet than the young people. If anything, I challenge the young people, such as myself, to actually spur civic education themselves. I don't see why they would need to wait for those who are much older. It's an opportunity for them to come forward. And just to kind of touch on something that Dr. Sylvester has said, is that we're not looking to develop scholars, we're looking to develop leaders. And leaders have to have an internal grit. They have to understand what it takes to actually lead in the public service or even outside of the public service. Leadership is also idiosyncratic. You have your own personal journey towards leadership. You heard Dr. Terry say that he went through PwC and through many government positions and through University of Newcastle. Myself, I went to Cambridge University, I went to Oxford University, I then went to PwC and McKinsey. I then did a tour through government. I spent time in Kipra, I went to CMA, and now I'm supporting government. But those are personal decisions I have made to see where I can fit in. If one door doesn't open, you open another. You find another window to get into government or to support government in some way. So I think whilst the civil society and civic engagement is very, very important, I also think that the youth have an opportunity to lead in that respect as well.
I mean, we talk about emulation, we talk about the mentorship, which is very important, because part of what I got from you is that you're really hands-on and big on mentorship. And again, this is one of those things that youths, just from a broader perspective, they tend to lack the aspect of mentorship. But coming to you, Jim, do you think that the youths, particularly in this country, have lost faith in their leaders?
So just to piggyback a bit on the question around mentorship, the delicate balance of mentorship is always, overcoming the attempt to create your mentee in your own image.
Okay.
A lot of times a mentor wants to create a mentee in their own image, and so you want this young person to be like you, and that's for God. God is the only one who creates us in his own image. The rest of us, we can only try to show a path and show a direction that young person needs to take. On opportunities, we have done a program with the Ministry of Youth where we'll be going to a lot of spaces in this country, especially in informal settlements and in rural villages, to hold town hall meetings with young people. And what we've done is, any place that we go to, we bring help alongside us. We bring, any financing opportunities are there within government, any loans that are being given. We bring as many government institutions and the non-governmental institutions as well to these places. And anytime we're talking and you're saying, oh, by the way, if there's any young person here who has cleared Form 4 and you want to continue with your education, there's a help desk right outside this hall. Please go and register with them. They will give you a loan. When we've taken that practical approach, you've realized that whereas we assume that a lot of this information is readily available and people should know, the reality is a lot of young people do not know because they are buried in hopelessness. There's a lot of hopelessness in this country, and particularly among young people, because you grow up in an environment and sadly that environment shapes your mind and your attitude. That environment shapes who you become. And so if you grow up in an environment where everybody is hopeless and nobody sees anything positive positive around them. Nobody sees any opportunities, and people keep saying the government has forgotten about us. You know, your paths are already defined for you in that particular culture, and that is the reality of so many young people across this country. And so a few who live in Nairobi have the luxury of saying, you know, we know where these things are, but the reality on the ground is very different. And so we have to take the deliberate approach in some of these communities to actually go in and say, here are the opportunities, please take them up. And some of them have gone ahead and taken them up, and support them on that journey, because again, where they have grown up has defined who they are. But have young people given up on their leaders? To a large extent, a lot of young people have. To a large extent, because I've said, there's a lot of hopelessness. If you walk into so many communities, the realities that you have in your house and in your neighborhood, a lot of people do not have those things. And so a lot of young people feel and see, and it will go back. We do a lot of work in the civic engagement space, governance and civic engagement space. We see a lot of young people who do not want to register as voters, for instance. A lot of young people who do not want to show up. They've registered, but they do not show up on voting day because they do not see the sense in it. They have seen governments come and go. They have not seen any result, any benefit to them, at least in their opinion. They have seen their colleagues go to college and leave college and tarmac for 5, 6 years without any jobs. They have seen people go to college and pull carts on the streets. And so there is really nothing for them to look forward to. And so there's a sense of hopelessness in a lot of our communities. And I think that's why when we keep saying that we are targeting 50 young people, we are targeting 100 young people, the idea is, how do we restore this hope among them? How do we ensure that if we are able to influence this 50, they're able to go back to communities and influence the others? Because that's the reality in many communities.
All right. A majority of young people are hopeless. I think I've counted the number of times James has mentioned that word in his response. And he's also talked about even the fact that good number of young people do not even want to register as voters. On that IBC report, it showed that this was their biggest target, but that didn't happen. In fact, IBC came out to say that for those aspirants or those vying for different elective positions, if they're targeting the youth, then they should look for other alternative. Is it a question of vote of no confidence towards the leaders or amongst the youth themselves? Because we keep saying that, anyway, change begins with you and I. So if I don't make a step, what exactly will happen to me as a young person?
In government, we hold a lot of workshops. And the very first thing we do when we go for a workshop is expectations. One of the most critical things we've realized that we've not managed the expectations of the youth. From the word go, why do they go to a university? We've not managed their expectations. And we've not guided them well. During the first cohort, I did interviews for interns in Western Kenya, Vihiga, Kakamega. At the end of that process, I was extremely saddened, but also very happy, because I realized that I was at times interviewing first-class aeronautical engineers who are telling me that maybe they have not been placed. But I was also pleasantly surprised that the very bright students have actually found something to engage themselves in. I've found a biomedical technologist who knows the trend of medical research, who knows the current trends. But this guy, having done his last attachment at Cambridge and was not absorbed, very quickly went back to Muhoroni and enrolled himself in a metal fabrication course for 6 months. By the time he was coming for the internship interview, he showed me photos of the gates he had done and told me he was doing very well. He had 2 dairy cattle, he had a farm. And I asked him, man, with all these things, why do you still want to come for the internship? He told me, I am still interested in medical research. I am not going to leave my industry. And I found a number of those extremely entrepreneurial fellas. I found a lady from Busia who told me he got watermelon from Bali and pineapples from Busia, and then got a handcut guy to sell them in some local market. I was extremely impressed. I got a lady in Vihiga who did education and told me she gets mutumba. irons them, cleans them, and then supplies them to the teachers at the local. But I also got a group of people who told me, you know, there's no work in government. I've just been applying. I've never been a call for an interview. You see, in this government, unless you know somebody, nothing can happen. I did not take that type. Those who were engaged, I took. What we are saying is managing expectations. And I think maybe through our schooling system, we've not managed the expectations well. We need to do something and tell them really, what are we especially doing in expanding education space? It is better to have, as a country, to have unemployed youth than to have illiterate youth. They are more useful to the economy. So for me, education expansion, yes, to an extent, we needed to have also thought about expanding our industry and absorbing them. But to a large extent, I think we need to manage expectations. Even those who we end up taking will tell you that, ask them, where would you like to be in 5 years' time? The common feedback is, I would like to be in an influential policy position in government.
Decision-making
in 5 years' time. You see, so those are the most interesting. I even met one, I talked to the youth, and I want just to gauge them, where are they? A young man told me who had just entered university first year. So, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? He told me that he sees himself as a judge. I was wondering, within 7 years, you have not even finished.
But he's ambitious.
Yeah, ambitious. But is it practical? Those are the things. Are these ambitions practical?
Okay.
You have started first year law school. You have got about 5 years to go to law school, isn't it? And then you have got about 1 year to be admitted, 2 years to be admitted to the bar. It means that you're just starting. A judge must have practiced for a minimum of 7 years, according to the current regulation, which means that if you think you will be a judge within 7 years, there seems to be either lack of information or something. So I think what I'm saying, I don't, yes, it's good to be ambitious, but it's also good to be realistic.
And I think, Doreen, really just jumping onto the point that Dr. Sylvester has made, is that I think sometimes we have a challenge with perspectives. So for young people, I think where the hopelessness comes in is when you look at leadership and opportunity as a zero-sum game. When it's zero-sum, you say that it's either old people or young people. But really, there's been a shift from that. It's not about a zero-sum game. It's really about what's called intergenerational co-leadership. So how can I be at the same table as Dr. Sylvester, as we're doing right now? Not how can I eliminate Dr. Sylvester from being at this table so that I can take his place. Because let's be realistic. If I challenge Dr. Sylvester in that way, he's likely to pull back. He's likely to close the door for me. But if I say I simply want some room and to join you at the table and to work together, I think that's a perspective that changes. Now, another thing around perspective is that I know individuals who have started as cleaners, who have gone on to work in nursing homes, who've then gone on to secure PhDs and go to some of the top schools, Harvard, Yale, etc. And why do they do this? What I'm saying is that some of these individuals, despite their education, they took up opportunities to work in very menial jobs. And over time, they proved that they have the attributes that may not be technical, but may be professional. So punctuality, presentation, delivery skills, communication skills. So all of those are means of opening up opportunities to be at that table when the time comes.
Okay, speaking of old people and young people, just drawing from what Levi has said, and let me come to you, Jim. If you can remember in 2018, when the president appointed the former vice president, that was Mudiawe, to the position of chair of the sports board fund, it caused an uproar amongst Kenyans. At that time, he was 91 years old, and the question was, if he can do this, where does this leave the young people? The president was very categorical. He said that it's because young people who had been put in that position could not stop or curb the issue of corruption, a bit of theft, and so he thought the older folks were better placed. So aside from ideas, passion, zeal, what can young folks bring to the table when it comes to leadership?
That's a good question, and it puts me on the spot on that.
Yeah, as a young person.
As a young person, one of the things that we must appreciate, the conversation in the country has always looked like we're pitting, as Andrew was saying, we're pitting young people against old people against young people. And so constantly when the president makes an appointment, you want to look at what age, what's the age of that person, one, without looking at what's the experience level, yeah, because their level of experience, they're bringing a value to that particular position that they've been appointed to, all right? And so then we also have to look at, and we also cannot generalize, because I've also had this thing of people saying we have given some young people opportunities and they have gone ahead and disappointed us. The counter is you've also given a lot of old people opportunities and they have really disappointed us. So the whole question of disappointment and corruption and embezzlement has nothing to do with age. It has nothing to do with whether you're old or young. It's just a values issue. If you're a corrupt individual, whether you're young or old, you're a corrupt individual. And what then has happened is that over time, a lot of young people have then taken the opportunity to then pick that conversation, which a lot of the time it gets lost on us what really needs to happen. We need to create opportunities for young people where they are. We need to create position for young people where they are. And so we are getting lost in this national conversation, appointment of PSS and CSS, where truth be told, even if we were to have young people, we would only have 20 young people appointed in a country where we have over 20 million young people who are young. So the truth is the conversation needs to be on creating opportunities where young people are at the lower level where they are, so that, as you said, they get the opportunity to get the industry experience and to grow over time. Because let it not be lost on us, the dignity that comes with economic empowerment, it's a dignifying thing to have a source of livelihood. It is a dignifying thing. It improves even the quality of your engagement with people. It improves the quality of your engagement in conversations. It improves even the quality of decision making at the ballot. If you have a source of livelihood. If you do not, then it means you're susceptible to bribery. You're susceptible to a 50 bob in exchange of your vote. But if you have a source of livelihood, then you can overlook that and you can stop talking about issues and say, in our community, we actually need water. That's what we need, and that's why we're going to vote for you. So what young people bring to the table for me is they bring their youthfulness and vibrance.
I just want to emphasize on that.
Yes.
It's taken us 2 years to contextualize this program to the Kenyan context. Jim, Andrew came with the idea of that youthfulness, but we sat and discussed. At the Public Service Commission, I joined the Public Service Commission in 2016. My first responsibility was to set up the research unit, research and policy analysis unit. The position of a director is only one, but in the research and policy analysis unit, there are 4 positions for entry researchers. From policy analysis unit, I went to set up the performance and service delivery transformation, a department of 29. The position of a director is only one, but there are 14 entry positions. You see, so what we're saying really, there is value in working together. So the issue is not that Sylvester exits, I want to become a director, but is there value in the creation? So what would you rather trade on, 14 positions or 1 position?
That's where mentorship also comes in. Well, Sarah, this is a good place to end this conversation. Obviously, I've been speaking to Dr. Sylvester Obongo. He is the Director, Performance and Service Delivery Transformation at the Public Service Commission. Right next to him is Jim India, the Program Manager at Emerging Leaders Foundation Africa, as well as Andrew Levi, who's the Global Senior Manager at Emerging Public Leaders USA. And we've been having the conversation surrounding youth, leadership, and governance. There's spaces available and what you can do as a young person to get into these spaces. This is where we bring the conversation to a close, but Good Morning Kenya continues after this break. Stay with us.
kujisumbua na tangawizi ambayo haitakufaa na lolote. Nakuwa unapata sauti yako Sasa utanisikiza au?
Nikorogwe na watu.
Ukisema watu unamaanisha nini?
Uko sawa wakili?
Mimi nishakuona Keti amekuingiza box.
Hivyo naweza kugundua kwamba huyu mtoto anaweza kuwa wetu. Mimi na wewe.
You think I'm taking it well that she's dead now? You think I'm happy now? No!
Mom!
This isn't true! You're lying!
Jesus, say something. Has anyone here seen Pinky?
I looked everywhere, but I found nothing.
You file a report for a missing person. In situations like this, odds are your sister's no longer alive.
I'm afraid Pinky might have killed herself.
Shannon! Shannon!
Huyu mtoto sitaki atoke kwa hii nyumba bila ya ruhusa yangu.
Mimi lakini mbona umenuna? Kwa mja papenda?
Muona babake Maya?
Sasa huyu amkuja kutugombeza sisi kuhusu Bingu. Yeye ndo amelala naye ama ni sisi?
I need you to testify.
Sorry, I cannot do it. Usipoishughulikia upesi itakuua.
Because we are Dynasty! We accept your challenge, but there's one stipulation. This match is going to be a ladder match. It's the most dangerous, the most deadly style of match in wrestling. I think that it's time that we give Brian Pillman Jr. the chance to shine. I want to give him this opportunity to be in this match.
I'll make the Hart family proud, and I'll make my father proud.
Kujisumbua na tangawizi ambayo haitakufaa na lolote. Nakuwa unapata sauti yako Sasa utanisikiza au?
Nikorogwe na watu.
Ukisema watu unamaanisha nini?
Uko sawa wakili?
Mimi nishakuona Keti amekuingiza box.
Hivyo naweza kugundua kwamba huyu mtoto anaweza kuwa wetu. Mimi na wewe.
Are we seeing a decrease, a decline with as far as burden is concerned, or we are still seeing more cases of TB?
In 2020, I think we estimated to have about 139,000 cases of TB. That would mean every single day there's 90 people dying from TB. It would mean a bus of 60-seater bus crashing every day.
What are some of the possible complications if TB is detected late?
TB is curable, so come seek treatment, you will get cured.
Kwani unatumia mapua kusikia? Si nimetoka kukwambia hiyo saa hii tu.
Are you sure you did not go extremely out of your way? I mean, you don't even look familiar. This is not your style.
Julia, why do you look like you have swallowed a tablespoon of yeast?
And why do you look like them can I keep my yeast?
Are you hungry? You look angry.
You see that Mr. Free? He has been evading me the whole week and my stepfather is on my case.
What is is your biggest problem?
My biggest problem is that Daira Bank. She has broken my family into tiny pieces.
That is your family's problem. I am asking about how you, father. What is your biggest problem? And Auntie Bella, where did you get all this money from?
Mr. Fridge, I have my own ways.
Good morning. You're still watching KBC Channel 1 and this is Good Morning Kenya. Now shifting gears from youth and leadership as well as mentorship, and we are getting into matters of citizen responsibility when it comes to matters election, and also what the private sector has to say in regard to where we find ourselves currently in as far as matters of elections are concerned. Just to remind you that it is the 15th of March 2022, a day where the dailies have splashes about matters, politics, trouble in Azimio. This is expected to be Deputy President's day as they have that particular NDC event happening at Kasarani, where KBC Channel 1 crew is going to be bringing you the live proceedings, so to speak. So my guest this morning is none other than Daniel Juma, who is a member of the Kenya Daima Steering Committee and the Executive Director of Global Peace Foundation Kenya. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Now, this is a current affairs platform, and since we're talking about citizen responsibility and also matters of leadership and the trickle-down effect on the economy, we have three dailies with us this morning. What's your take on our current coverage of the election process, where we find ourselves ahead of the August 9th? I can give you a few headlines. We have Mudavadi, Rigathi, best for Ruto. That's one of the dailies here. We have trouble in Azimio, and the one that you have is Ruto's big day. Yeah. Is the media doing justice when it comes to coverage of matters election? Totally your opinion. Yeah.
So my opinion is, of course, the media does its best to be able to engage the citizenry on matters elections, and especially when you look at headlines, it's usually not every media house has its focus. Today, Nation is focusing on a different issue. You can see Standard trouble in Azimio, Stars, Mudavadi, Rigathi, best for Ruto. So usually the editors select their headline based on what they think is sensational news that can be able to sell their newspapers. But of course, the media is very, very essential in a democracy. Actually, free and fair press is an essential element of democracy and governance. And I want to encourage our media to continue, especially speaking truth to power, asking the hard questions, and most importantly, setting the tone. Sometimes we get lost on issues, and especially now that we're going through the elections, the most salient issues get lost somewhere else, in the euphoria and in the sloganeering. So it is the responsibility of the media to steer us back into the most important path whenever we get lost. For me, as someone who has been involved in matters governance for a long time, I believe that elections and of course governance is about the people. It's about service delivery. Running for an election is offering yourself to serve the people. You understand? So the most important leadership should be the people, and it should not be about the individual who is running. It should be about the people. So when people vote and when people take part in elections,
they should be taking part and electing those leaders who will best serve their interest and not the opposite. Yes.
The interests of Wanjiku.
Yes.
But as history has it, well, we have fallen short.
Of course.
Now, before we get into those details, from where you sit as a member of the Kenya Daima Steering Committee, how do the election campaigns compare this year, 2022, to 2013 and 2017? What are the glaring differences?
We launched in Kenya Daima in 2012 after, a few years after we had that very sad happening of the 2007-2008, post-election violence. And we were able to engage with the citizenry in, 2013 elections and 2017 elections with the premise that Kenya should never go back to 2007-2008. Actually, as you know, for a long time, Kenya had been known as an island of peace in turbulent regional waters. But 2007, I don't know what happened. We just went crazy and just decided to forget about our role, especially in the region, as a nation of peace. And so when we launched Kenya Daima in 2012, we had, of course, the intention of engaging, the people, and especially encouraging the people to get involved in governance issues. We want the citizenry to be involved in elections. This idea of having apathy, where you say you don't want to get yourself, you don't want to vote, you don't want to take part in the process. So most important thing is get the people involved. And when they get involved, let them understand why. Why, for example, do we go for elections, for example? Every 5 years, the Constitution dictates that we must subject ourselves to the elections. And it's a 5-year cycle. So what we are saying is that, and one of the most important objectives is that we need to normalize, normalize elections so that people understand that this is something that is going to be happening every 5 years, and that it is not an excuse for the nation to be able to go down the drain. As coming from the business sector, KBC, we are very, very concerned about the fact that every 5 years, business go down. Investors are afraid to come into this country when we approach elections. And this is very, very sad. And if you look at other countries, for example, in Europe, a country like Finland, whereby people vote in the morning and they go to work in the afternoon.
Yes. So
we need to normalize and, of course, change the narrative, the economic, political, and social narrative, so that elections become part and parcel of our democratic and governance life. And that's one of the reasons why we have been involved, and we are looking at this year, and especially being a transitional election, we want issues to be brought to the fore. This should be about how will these elections, whoever you're voting for, how will they change your life for the better? Elections should be about the people, as I said earlier on, but most importantly, it should be about the economy. You have heard about the narrative, it's about the economy, stupid, and this is basically the US elections. So if it is not going to change the economy, if it is not going to make the economy better, if you're voting for someone who will not improve the economy, then you'd rather not get involved. But one of the most important objectives is that we are electing leaders, accountable leaders, who will improve the quality of life of this nation, so that we do not go down the drain of where we went in 2007-2008.
Yeah. So from where you sit as Kenya Daima, what is the feel? I hear you've mentioned, the uncertainty, especially when it comes to investors now adopting that wait and see, transitional government. Are they still going to have policies in place to support MSMEs or even create a conducive business environment? But other than that, from where you sit, since Kenya Daima was actually established in 2013. 2013. So how do we compare in terms of and saying that the political temperatures are rising?
Yes.
From where you sit?
Yes.
How do we compare in that aspect?
From where I sit, and we said this during the launch of the Kenya Daima 2022 initiative the other week, is that we are a very vibrant democracy. You know, we are actually, somebody said we are a political country, and everything, and that's why you see even our newspapers, it's about politics. Everything about politics. Headlines every day is about politics. So we consume a lot of politics. So it's our nature. We love politics, and we are not unique. And other countries, even you saw in the US. So politics actually drives the nation, drives the narrative usually. And of course, when you are nearing the election period, there is that excitement, and sometimes there is a tendency to go overboard with that excitement. But ours is to send a message of calm, to send a message of calm, and to say that even though there's a lot of political excitement, you know, there's a lot of political sloganeering, we want to send a message of confidence that this happens every 5 years, and it should be managed at a level. You know, when 2007, 2008 happened, is because people did not have confidence in the electoral management process, especially in the judicial system. They did not have confidence that if I'm defeated at the poll and I go to the court will not listen, fair to be able to adjudicate my process. But we have come a long way, and we have seen, for example, and that's one of the reasons why I said that in these elections, when you go, and for me, I look at elections as betting. So when you bet, you don't say that because I bet, I must win that money, you know? It is also like athletics. When you're starting to compete, you don't know who will actually win. So when you go into it, you go into it with this attitude that I can win, also I can lose. And so we are saying that if you win, good for you. You know, but if in the event that you lose, you need to accept that it is like betting, and you need to accept. And that's why we're saying that this time round, we need to educate especially our politicians, because they're the ones who incite the young people to go and fight for me, to go and we need to educate. This time, when you run for election, when you present yourself for elections, prepare 2 speeches. One is a victory speech.
Yes.
And one is a concession speech. Because as you say in Kiswahili, asiyekubali kushindwa si mshindani. So if you are going to compete and you're saying that I have to win, you know, then what about the others? You know? So this is one of the most important things, and this is, as Kenya Daima, we need to manage, especially those candidates, and especially in a close election. It could go either way.
Yes.
So the attitude of saying that it has to be me, or it has to be my candidate. We are saying that you as a Kenyan, in Swahili we are saying that tenda wajibu wako and vote. So your role is just to vote. You know, after voting, your role ends there.
At that point.
At that point. IBC will count the votes, and then we'll announce the winners. So once the winner has been announced, your role again is to accept whoever has been announced as a winner.
As they say in a democracy, the majority will have their way,
yes,
but the minority will also have their say.
Yes, but to add on that, for the winners, you know, once you win, the winner has a responsibility to bring the nation together. To be the president or the MP, you know, for those who voted for him and for those who voted, because election is just a process of sieving the best, and then getting one who will be able to lead, lead the whole nation. So the idea of other nations, other part of the country feeling that they lost is neither here nor there. Yes.
So we are moving together.
Yes.
Now, you've said that in the past, actually looking back at what led us to the post-election violence of 2007, 2018, was a certain feel among Kenyans that they lacked confidence in various institutions like the electoral body,
yes,
as well as the judiciary. Do you feel that we have come of age, that we have gained confidence in this? In these organizations and in these institutions that have been mandated to actually carry out a transparent and accountable process?
Absolutely. You saw when we have, because 2007 was chaotic, 2013, after we adopted the 2010 Constitution, the 2010 Constitution actually addressed, almost all of the issues in contentions in 2007, 2008. And we had judicial reforms. You had, judges being interviewed, and that whatever we had called the surgery, that surgery in the judiciary.
Yes.
And so that was meant to actually instill confidence in the judiciary. And also we had the IEBC being reconstituted, from ECK to IEEC and then into IEBC. All these were meant to be able to give the people confidence in these institutions. So, and as you can see, the judiciary especially has done its best. Yes. In 2017, they actually annulled a presidential election, something that has never been done here. So anybody who is doubting that our institutions are not fair, cannot, stand on principle, they got it wrong. Personally, and from the part of Kenya Daima, one of the most important things that we're saying is that let us nurture these independent institutions. The IEBC must be supported so that they are able to deliver free and fair and credible elections. The judiciary must be supported so that in the event of disputes, they can be able to adjudicate, so that we remove the responsibility of fighting for free fair elections from the people. The people have voted, they've done their work. And the people have also done something more important. We pay taxes. So we are paying taxes that are paying salaries for IEBC. We are also paying taxes. We are paying salaries for the judges.
Yes.
So the judges should need to do their work. So when there's a dispute, let them handle these disputes credibly in a manner that will get the whole nation behind the decisions that they make. So that's why I'm very optimistic that because we have a free and independent judiciary, because I believe that the IEBC, especially after the recent constitution, they are independent, that they're going to manage these elections in a manner that will give confidence to Kenyans to be able to accept the confidence, the result of the elections. So in moving forward, Kenyans have no reason to doubt
this institution,
the institution, the fairness. These are Kenyans. And by the way, running these institutions is never an easy job. You can ask anybody who has been at the IEBC. It is never an easy job. It's a very difficult job. But one thing, also you need to know that even when people complain about rigging elections and what, do you know that usually, most of the time, it is the candidates. It's the candidates who mess up, They want to be able to manage, the agents. They're the ones. Usually, it is not the IEBC who make mistakes, but it is the candidates who want to have an advantage, especially in their strongholds. So ours is to be able to especially encourage the candidates, the politicians, to abide by the Chapter 6 of the Constitution, to abide by the Electoral Code of Conduct. Look at who bribes voters. Who bribes voters? Who organizes chaos during election? It is the politicians. So the IEBC, they are in a very difficult situation. So ours is to support them. The politicians must support them. The citizenry must support them. And as a nation, one of the most important things, and this will determine whether we are at peace or not, is that Kenyans must accept that their role, wajibu wako kama Mkenya ni kupiga kura, vote for the accountable leaders. And after voting, you tell the politicians, I've done my part. Sasa, whoever will not accept the verdict of the IEBC, you go to court. That way we are able to move on. We can have business continuity. We can avoid problems, moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the voter to do their part, and it ends at the ballot.
At the ballot.
At the ballot.
Everything is
talking about the voter, Juma.
Yes.
Looking at the last statistics that we gathered from IEBC on, the rollout of voter registration, we saw that they did not meet their target. And there's been a question about voter apathy, especially among the youth.
Yes.
As in Kenya Daima, what role are you playing, to ensure that, at least the youth come on board? Because what is different in 2013, 17 and 2022 is now that the youth now have become the target you know, for vote, the voters' hunting ground is within the youth demographic.
Yes.
Yet they did not register as expected. So
Yes.
what role are you playing to ensure that they come on board actually and take part in their civic right?
In 2017, we ran a campaign called Kagua Kabla Kuchagua. But most important thing, you know, of course, we encourage young people to be able to register to vote and to actually come out and vote. Accountable. That is the most important role for the young people. Of course, one of the most important things that we do, of course, as an advocacy organization, is to encourage, of course, you know, young people to come out to vote, but also to work with these agencies like IBC, government, the issues of IDs, so that more young people can be enabled to have IDs and can be encouraged to go out there and vote. But for one of the most important things that I'm looking at, the future. I'm looking at us, even as a nation, being able to innovate this thing, because voter registration, as we know it, you know, other countries, even you have an ID, you can go and vote. And I'm looking at a future whereby any Kenyan who has an ID can actually go and vote without having to again register, you know. So if you have an ID, so that registration, the national ID registration system, can as well be used, you know, for as an election register. So these are the kind of innovations I think we can use in future to avoid these
periodic,
yes, and having to waste billions in going through another process of registering voters. Yet you know very well that even if you're registered as a voter, if you don't have an ID, you can't vote. So the most important thing is have an ID. Once you have an ID, so in future I think legislators can change laws to enable anybody that have an ID. We can say that if you have an ID, you actually qualify as a voter, and you should be able to
maybe
vote.
That's what the government was intending to do with the rollout of the Huduma number.
The Huduma number, yes.
But we're waiting to see. There's been a lot of controversy around that area. Now, still talking about, you know, looking at the voter, because as you say, their role ends at the ballot.
Yes.
But then who are we voting? Who are we voting in? Because the question has been, over the years, we have seen leaders traverse the country just as they are, politicking, campaigning for various seats, promising heaven.
Yes.
But when it hits the ground and things it becomes a reality, they're nowhere to be seen. The issue of responsibility, from a voter point of view, what would be the ideal manifesto that a voter who is seeking to actually elect either an MCA, an MP, what should they be looking out for?
As KBC, we have come up with something called the Private Sector Economic Manifesto, in which we are saying that you know, every manifesto of these politicians who are offering themselves for leadership should be able to actually have an impact on the economy. So we are saying that the young people, whoever you are voting for, you need to kagua, interrogate his manifesto, and say, is it going to improve our lives as a people? Is it going to improve the economy? You know, is it going to take us to the next level or not? So I think in deciding who to vote for, and especially I'm looking here, we need to be voting for accountable leaders, you know, leaders who will actually who will actually say that this is what we're going to do. But most important thing, after voting them in, again, our role as a voter is to keep them
in check.
So that they're actually doing what they said they would do. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen sometimes, because nowadays, one of the other than apathy, our politics, as you know, has been pervaded by money, you know, so
corruption.
And especially, and I had some of the young people talk here, because of you know, lack of employment, lack of livelihoods. So we have these young people who they are so vulnerable to misuse by especially unscrupulous politicians. So these guys come with money and they just dish the money, And then, people vote for them because they have the money. But immediately, because the person you are voting for, if you're voting for him because he's giving you the money, he's going to, have to steal from the CDF so that he recoups back the money that he was using to campaign.
I think, Juma, you need to take that back, again, for emphasis, because there's been a campaign, especially on social media, where we've had a few leaders actually encouraging their potential voters to take the money because we are facing hard economic times. Take the money, but ile siku ya kura unajua nani unapigia kura.
I had it kula sio kula na kukula kula na yes, that you take the money. It is true. And ideally, I would not say, I would also maybe agree that if they give you the money, you take it. But when it comes to making the decision of your lifetime, because the vote here is a decision of your lifetime. You are voting for someone who will decide that road, the road that comes to your village, is going to be deciding, because politics is about the allocation of resources and values. So you're voting for someone who will be deciding resources that comes to your area. He's going to be deciding also your values as a democracy, you have freedom, all these kind of things. So if you reduce all that to the money that you get, that means, and that's one of the reasons why you send people to parliament and they don't speak. We have people who have never spoken in parliament. They're elected, they don't speak. So members of parliament usually think that their work is just to manage CDF. But the most important work of an MP, for example, is legislation and oversight and representation. So if you make a mistake of just voting because somebody gave you money, and especially this is what is happening. And this is one of the reasons why most of, especially young people and women, do not get voted in, because they don't have a lot of money to splash around. But unfortunately, the result is what you're seeing is that there are so many projects that are pending. Because you put in somebody who doesn't care about those projects. They're looking in to take the money and pay back whatever they used, they gave you.
Actually, they say it's an investment.
It's an investment.
You have to recoup, as they say. It takes me 6 months when you start a business to recoup. Now, as you're winding up this conversation, Daniel Juma, you've mentioned about the KBC Economic Manifesto. Maybe you can just give us a highlight. What are the key priorities in this manifesto? Looking at where we are in as far as the economy is concerned, everyone is crying about the high cost of living, high cost of power, and such. What are the key areas that the KBC Economic Manifesto has prioritized?
So most important thing is that the Economic Manifesto, we must be able to focus on the economy. Is that when you are dealing with these politicians, these leaders, so leaders must be able to prioritize. For example, how do we improve the ease of doing business in the country? This is important, because at the end of the day, even though there's a lot of noise about elections, the most important thing is the economy, like I've said earlier on. If there is no money to run the country, at the end of the day, whoever you put in government needs money, needs you to pay taxes to be able to have the money to be able to run the government. At the end of the day, if the people cannot do business, if the business community cannot have their business, do their business in a peaceful and underline peaceful environment, we need to avoid a situation whereby every 5 years the economy, the business community is held hostage by politics. So one of the most important aspects of the Economic Manifesto is that we need to have business continuity. Business continuity, whether there's elections or not. Kenya must be able to be predictable. We need predictability in business. We need business continuity. We don't need a situation whereby when we are nearing the election, business stops. People have to, see losses. Like we saw millions of shillings, lost during 2007, 2008. And every time that we go towards the election. So the Economic Manifesto is, focusing on that. Business continuity, business predictability. And whoever comes on board, they're interrogating the manifestos of these leaders so that they have to tell us what they will do to improve business, to improve investment, to attract foreign investment, and after they have been elected in these positions, again, we need to keep them in check to see, and that's why KBC usually has these roundtables. We have roundtables with the judiciary, with parliament, even with the presidential roundtable, to see that the manifestos that these people promise are actually being implemented.
And even feasible.
Even feasible, yes.
Yes. Now, there you have it. Run out towards the elections with August 9th being the date. We've been talking about, the role of Wanjiku when it comes to electing those leaders. We have been speaking to Daniel Juma, who is Executive Director of Global Peace Foundation Kenya and also a member of Kenya Daima Steering Committee. Take home is Kagua Kabla ya Kuchagua. Please see those leaders, see if they have delivered before. And if they haven't, you do not need to give them another opportunity, as a taxpayer. Well, you're watching KBC Channel 1, and this is Good Morning Kenya. I have been your host, Regina Manyara. I leave in the able hands of Safine Chen as she takes you over onto Martha's News Check. Do keep it right here.